Sorry, it was a.
Okay, we are back from. Okay, we're back from executive session. I will have Attorney Spring discuss items we discussed while we were in executive session, please. Thank you.
We provided legal advice to the commission on certain pending matters, as well as discussed pending litigation before the Superior Court. No actions were taken in executive session.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, and who speaks on that, please?
Morning, Brenda Connor, Accounts Maintenance Officer. And today the staff recommends the commission to enter assessment on the following dockets. Docket 556, Vitalca Universal Service Fund, $130. Docket 669, Broadband VI, $2,600. Docket 691, the St. John February investigation for Varlock Ventures, $26,208. For transportation services, $26,208. And for docket 702, Wakaliak, $98,846.33.
Madam Chairman, I have an objection to one of your consent items.
Okay, would you like to come forward and be sworn in?
Well, no, consent agenda.
Okay. She's not allowed to make a comment.
I don't think so. Not on the agenda, not on the consent agenda. Right, Attorney Spring? The consent agenda doesn't open for debate, isn't open for debate, is it?
The consent agenda, the idea is that those are items that we normally do not have objections. If we have someone who wishes to object, we remove that item. We can move the other items.
You'd also submit a written.
So she's not prohibited from opposing an assessment on her client or getting their comments on the record. The consent agenda was created because the vast majority of our assessments are without objection.
Gotcha, okay.
No, I know. Yes, ma'am. Can raise your right hand to be sworn in, please?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So, yeah.
I do.
Thank you.
Maria Tankinson Hodge, representing the ferry boat companies.
Excuse me, could you please speak up a little bit? I want to make sure.
Maria Tankinson Hodge, representing the ferry boat companies, transportation services of St. John Inc. and Varlock Ventures Inc. The first thing I'd note actually was I see that the figures given this morning by the staff are not the same as those in the written consent agenda. I'm not quite sure what accounts for that. I think the indication was $26,202 for each of my companies, while the written consent agenda said $33,707. But we nevertheless have objections, which I'd like to summarize for you if I may.
Okay, can we take care of that issue first? Brenda, can you please check to make sure those numbers are accurate?
Oh, I'm sorry, I made an error.
Okay.
Yeah, she's correct. I was reading from a different document. The actual assessment is $33,707.33 per ferry company.
Each of the companies.
Each company.
Do you accept that?
That's what I understood was
Okay.
before you.
Oh, okay. I got
I don't accept it.
Yeah, sorry, it was amended, yeah.
Right, the
Okay,
amended
yeah.
agenda had the larger number, but the amount orally mentioned today was.
That's an
I
error on my
understand what
part.
happened. Okay, thank you.
So,
Okay, you can continue.
so briefly, the commission by this assessment would add an additional approximately $66,000 to the assessments made to these two companies in this rate review, which already have an assessment of $124,000. So the total of these additional amounts and the amounts you previously assessed would bring the assessments in this case to $190,000. To my knowledge, more than any hearing examiner's fees in the history of the Public Services Commission, particularly when there was no technical consultant hired by the commission. So you have only one professional being paid. In addition, we believe that on review, these billings could not have been reviewed for reasonableness as required by law, because, for example, if you look at the details submitted by the hearing examiner to support this charge, you'll see that it reflects an hourly charge of $400 an hour, which we submit as excessive, but it has a column which it refers to as regular hours. And for example, for the February 28th date, the regular hours are shown as 6 hours. And then there's a separate column for the same date that's called total hours, and there it shows 2 hours. But nevertheless, in the billing, the hearing examiner uses the larger amount, the 6 hours, for his charges. So he ends up charging $2,400 for that day rather than $800, which would be the amount if the 2 hours of so-called total hours were charged. He also charged that $2,400 just for preparing this bill, $2,400 for preparing his bill to you. This is the only person, in addition, who in this assessment traveled from St. Thomas to St. John to attend the public hearing and stayed there overnight while everyone else, all of your staff, your attorney, your staff members, all of the ferry boat representatives went over to the hearing and then came back to St. Thomas. But the hearing examiner chose to stay in St. John overnight at what must be the most expensive hotel in the Virgin Islands at a rate of $800 for a single night in some kind of a suite for a mini vacation instead of coming back with everyone else. He also rented a car, put it on the car barge, and essentially made a mini vacation out of attending this hearing when everybody else came back to St. Thomas. In St. Thomas the following night, his hotel room was about $200 a night. So there was no reason for him to stay in St. John and bill my clients $800 for a single night in a hotel room. He also charges from 8 to 10 hours a day, every day, from Tuesday, April 21st to Tuesday, from Tuesday to Tuesday, a period of 8 days, 8 to 10 hours a day, claiming he was working from 8 to 10 hours every one of those 8 days in a row to make his draft report. This accounts for approximately $80,000 in charges for a day of more than a week.
What was the dates? April what?
So that is that. So let me just get that for you, Commissioner.
Question. So Attorney Hodge, the information that you're reading from, that is the information provided by
I'm
the
so
hearing-
sorry, sir. I was looking for this information. My graph.
I'll- Is the hearing examiner
John,
on board?
Mr. Jed John, you should be, okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you, excuse
morning.
me, sir, good morning, sir, let's let her finish, and then we're gonna have you come in and discuss this, thank you.
These figures, Commissioner McGrath, are very small for these old eyes. I'm trying to find the exact dates, but it's a period of 8 days in a row in April, when according to the billings attached to this submission, the hearing examiner charges 8 to 10 hours a day, all in April. I would respectfully request that the staff review for that to prepare the draft report. These charges, again, I submit, are unprecedented in the history of the Public Services Commission.
Excuse me, are you able to find the dates?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I'm looking at these attachments and the fonts are
That's
so
too small.
tiny.
Yeah, I can't.
that I
see it.
can't.
And I wear glasses.
I had
Okay.
a magnifying glass
We'll
with
get,
me when I was,
We'll get,
looking in my
Mr.
office.
Jed John Holt to give us those dates,
thank you, Commissioner.
but go ahead and finish.
So the concern that we have is that these two small family businesses are being assessed these massive amounts with what appears to be little scrutiny of the time that would be reasonable to perform these services. And additionally, these costs, these charges for travel that we submit are excessive. That if you were hiring somebody to do a service for you in your private business, you would not expect them to do that. You would not expect them to check into a hotel in the Virgin Islands for $800 a night. So my clients are concerned because they have faced these massive assessments, and we're asking the commission to review these assessments further and to have them carefully scrutinized for reasonableness before approving them.
Thank you very much. Okay, so right now, I would like Mr. Jed John Hope to please come forward so that you can be sworn in?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Chair, one moment, please.
Wait,
No.
oh, yeah.
So-
Raise your
So,
hand to
yeah,
be sworn in, please. David, let's hear his side of the story first and then we can
Well,
comment.
that's kind of my point, Chair. The commission does not sit here and debate specific charges of administrative capacity. We have an executive director for this. Attorney Hodge should be making her arguments about the billing to our executive director, and we should be advised by the executive director as to whether or not this has been scrutinized. I don't have a problem with challenging the billings. It's not done before the commission. It's a function of our executive director's administrative responsibilities to manage hearing examiners. If these claims have not been made to the executive director in writing, I don't know why the commission is hearing them.
Okay. Were these claims made to the executive director?
I sent an email to the staff before this hearing, when you were scheduled to hear these last meeting, including the objection about the hotel room. I have developed this further as I have had a chance to look at the charges with a magnifying glass. And I believe that it is appropriate to raise them with the commission because it's before you now. It
Okay,
is for the commission to decide if these are reasonable.
okay, well, I'm gonna have to agree with Commissioner Hughes on this. To the executive director, do you have that information?
We do have the email from Attorney Hodge, and we are in fact reviewing the complaint, the
Okay.
objection.
Okay, so I think that's enough on the matter that our executive director will be looking into that and she will be getting back with both yourself and also Mr. Jed John Hope. Okay, all right,
Question.
go ahead.
Just
We have a
good-
question.
Yeah, good
One,
morning.
one moment, please. One moment, please. Commissioner McGrath.
Does our contract with Mr. John Hope include reasonable costs? Is there such a phrase in the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Reasonable costs and expenses.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Well,
Mr. Jed John Hope, this matter will be taken up with our executive director. So any comments you have concerning this matter, you will be discussing that with her. She will contact you concerning this, okay?
I will note that Mr. John Hope has sent some comments back to our executive director.
Okay, so it will be looked at. Thank you very
Thank you.
much, sir.
Chair, a motion.
Okay. Okay, so,
I have a motion.
Motion.
oh, go ahead.
I move that the ferry
Commissioner
boat
Hughes.
assessments be removed from the consent agenda until such time as the executive director has addressed them.
Okay,
Second,
What was this?
we could barely hear
to
you.
remove the rates, the docket 691 from the agenda until further discussion with the agenda.
Okay.
All of it or just the?
Just
Both of
those
them.
two.
Just the ferry
691.
rate, 691?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's vote on it.
Commissioner Clement McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nicholson.
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner David Hughes.
Yes.
Four voting yea. Motion has been carried.
Yeah. So move that these two items will be removed from the consent agenda until after the executive director has reviewed comments made by Attorney Hodge, right?
Yeah.
Attorney Hodge and comments and spoken with Attorney Hodge and also Mr. John Jed Hope. Okay. Now, let's vote on the rest of the consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
For clarification, docket 556, 669, and 702.
Correct.
Okay.
Get a vote, please.
Commissioner Clement McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nicholson.
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner David Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Section 3, it's St. John Franchise Ferry Boat Matters. Docket number 709, St. John Perry Franchise Temporary Emergency Fuel Surcharge Petition. Now who speaks on this matter?
Good morning again, Madam Chairman, Maria Hodge for the ferry boat companies.
Thank you. You have already been sworn in, so you can go ahead and proceed, please.
So good morning to the commissioners. The two companies that I represent, Transportation Services and Farlife Ventures, have filed an emergency petition for a fuel surcharge during this temporary period of disruption in the cost of fuel around the world, really, but for purposes of our interest in the Virgin Islands. The emergency petition was filed on April 17th as a result of the massive increase in the price of diesel resulting from the war in Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The cost of diesel to the ferry boat companies is one of their fundamental expenses of operating. Obviously, all their vessels are diesel fueled, and they have increased in a single month from approximately $3.85 a gallon to $6.10 a gallon, and from $5.76 a gallon to $7.68 for transportation services. In similar businesses in the Virgin Islands, there have been comparable increases and necessary surcharges. For example, you may have seen in the press, Crowley and Tropical Shipping have recently increased their fuel surcharge from $100 to $300 for a 20-foot cargo container, and from $200 to $700 for a 40-foot container. That's reported in an article in the VI Consortium on May 7th. The ferry boat from St. Thomas to the British Virgin Islands has also imposed a fuel surcharge in this emergency. Theirs has increased by $5 a trip. We are requesting, according to the calculation submitted with our petition, an emergency surcharge of 75 cents per ticket during the course of this emergency. We believe this is reasonable and that the analysis justifies it. It is prudent and it is critical for the companies to continue to pay the cost of fuel. When you think of the alternative, we are all aware, certainly all of us in the Virgin Islands are aware of the recent bankruptcy of Spirit Airlines, reportedly tipped into bankruptcy by the cost of fuel, which undermined their ability to continue to operate. In St. Thomas, observation, the cost of regular gasoline has increased 50 cents a gallon just in the last month. So it is pervasive, it's everywhere, it's unavoidable, it's completely beyond the control of the companies, and they need this temporary emergency relief just to keep operating on a viable basis. So we're asking the commission to approve this temporary surcharge with the understanding that it would terminate when the emergency terminates, and that we will all be aware of that because we'll be watching the news, we'll be aware when hopefully not too long this emergency concludes. We have submitted responses to questions from your staff, including most recently the response from the Department of Public Works to Transportation Services efforts to be able to arrange to fuel their larger vessel at the waterfront with an exemption from the prohibition on using the big vessel to go to town. And the Department of Public Works said that exemption couldn't be granted. So we believe that the petition as submitted is actually the best that can be hoped for, and we ask the commission's approval.
Thank you, Attorney Hodge. Let's hear comments from commissioners and staff.
You be amenable to an
Say
increase?
who you are so that,
Pardon me?
say your name.
Oh, Commissioner McGrath, amenable to an increase for 3 months with a reassessment after 3 months rather than just.
So I think a temporary period would be acceptable, Commissioner McGrath, as long as it was expected that before the expiration, we would come back to you if it was clear that the emergency wasn't over and we needed an extension.
This is
So
what I'm saying. It would be like the VIAC rate for WAPA. Every 3 months you'd come back with a reassessment.
I think that would not be unreasonable.
Is that all you have?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes, do you have any comment?
I think it's an interesting suggestion by Commissioner McGrath. I don't know that it's necessary to put a time frame on it. We're in the middle of a rate investigation. So we're going to be coming back to the ferry boat companies with a decision on rates here, probably inside 3 months, I would hope. And at that point, we can either extend. I would just, to the extent that we approve an emergency fuel surcharge, I would just think it would be until such time as the commission rescinds it. However, I'd like to ask a couple questions about the surcharge. We had raised earlier issues about the disparity in pricing between the two companies. Can you explain, please, why one company is achieving much lower fuel costs than the other?
Yes, Commissioner. We submitted a written response to that query from your council. The answer was that Transportation Services is, as the commission is aware, has one much larger vessel. Both companies operate some of the smaller ones, the government vessels that are on the primary run back and forth to Red Hook. But Transportation Services also has Spirit of 1776, which is much larger and cannot be accommodated at the refueling location that the smaller vessels have. So it has to be accommodated with special facilities. Transportation Services has found it necessary in order to manage their ship schedule to acquire their fuel primarily from Canal Bay's fuel supplier. They have sought the opportunity to use a lower cost provider at the waterfront. We submitted copies of that correspondence, Commissioner, to the Department of Public Works, asking them permission to allow an accommodation that would potentially have resulted in a lower cost of fuel for transportation for the larger vessel. And that request was, with regrets, as the government expressed it, denied. They felt that their hands were tied by the terms of their federal contract. So it is primarily a result of the fact that one company operates one much larger vessel that can't be accommodated at the docking facilities where one of the alternative providers operates. Also, that there is a limited capacity for the boats to all be fueling up, because the fuel suppliers can only fuel one boat at a time. That requires them to occupy a dock. And as the response to the commission's question indicated, Transportation Services has not been able to reach accommodation with that provider that would allow them to keep their schedule and also fuel its smaller vessel consistently at that location that Varlac has used. So while they've been trying to minimize their costs, obviously for their own sake, at this point, this is the best they've been able to manage.
Attorney Hodge, could you help me understand, please, for Transportation Services, how much of their activity between Red Hook and Cruz Bay is being run by this larger boat as opposed to the older government boat?
So I'm sorry, Mr. Hughes, I don't really have that information. I think the company was going to have somebody available on Zoom that might have the answer to that, but I can't tell from looking at your screens if they're here.
Who's the person?
Huh?
Who's the person?
So Laird Boynes from Transportation Services was going to join,
Okay.
and also Avery Williams, who did a lot of the analysis, including the analysis of this.
Are either of those people online?
No.
Okay.
So my
They may
understanding
not
of
have realized
my
you'd get to
understanding
this.
of the use and the efficacy of the larger boat is that it certainly accommodates high traffic rates for a couple of the periods in the day. It's not necessarily needed volumes of traffic for every route during the day. In fact, I think it's limited to a couple routes. I'm kind of curious what boat's being run and what happened to the third government boat. Is it just sitting there, or you make the point that you can't accommodate the schedule for the larger boat to go over and make the trip to St. Thomas to the waterfront. it wasn't my understanding that boat was running a full schedule. My understanding was it was running only those runs that necessitated higher volumes. So that's kind of what I'd like clarified by Mr. Boynes or Mr.
No,
Williams.
could I'll try to offer a clarification of my clarification, Commissioner Hughes. I must have misled the commission. I was not suggesting that the larger vessel, the Spirit of 1776, was being operated on the run to town. It isn't being operated on that run. It's prohibited from doing so. It was whether they could get permission to send it to town to refuel it.
Okay, I wasn't suggesting I'd get into the restrictions of the run to town differently. So Public Works is basically saying that boat can't even travel to Charlotte Valley for refueling.
No, they said that what they said in the letter that we sent you, that we attached to our submission is,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? We had a little disturbance here. Go ahead.
what Public Works said in the letter we submitted to the commission was, we can't allow you to operate to that run with passengers. But if you want to go down there empty to fill your tanks, we can permit that.
And that doesn't make sense to do?
No, because it's a waste of fuel, which is now obviously very expensive, to travel all the way to town to refuel a vessel empty. And also, you know, it's timing. So the company has determined that the most prudent arrangements that they can make are the ones that they're using. And in fairness, Commissioner, I point out that they're doing this out of their own pocket. It's not like somebody else is paying for this. So they're not doing it, they're not wasting money frivolously. They're paying this cost because as a matter of business practice, it has turned out to be the way they can do it. They also pointed out that the alternative fuel provider can't accommodate all these vessels, that they have to schedule their refueling when they have available space at the dock. They have other customers that also need to be refueled, not just these ferry boats. And that this is the best arrangement that the companies have been able to manage.
Does Public Works allow the other two government boats to make the downtown run and be refueled?
As my understanding is that the other two government-owned boats are allowed to go to town, and the Spirit of 1776 is the one that has a prohibition on it, and that's consistent with the correspondence from Public Works that we've submitted to you.
Okay, can we hold up for a second? Ms. Gums, who do we have?
Ms. Barla?
Okay, Ms. Barlat, can
Yeah, I
you
don't think
please?
she's gonna be able to answer about the 1776 is a transportation services.
I believe she wanted to say something.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Denise, Ms. Barlat, would you raise your hand to be sworn in, please? Let's just see what she has to say.
You need to turn on the camera.
Yeah, you need to turn on your camera, please. Thank you. Thanks, Frank. Are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay, hi, how are you? Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, let's let her proceed. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. As it pertains to our fueling situation, it is across the board. Our availability of fuel, number one, the availability of space for fueling, number two, and of course, the cost of fueling has just been nothing but a challenge for the ferry boat companies. And I can speak a little bit about transportation services because when they have to go to the facility that they utilize, it takes about an hour and a half for them to execute the process. And then I would have to fill in on their schedule, depending on what service we're assigned to for that particular week. Again, it has been a challenge for us because there's limited facilities that we can fuel at, number one. We were restricted from refueling in Red Hook about 2 years now. So the only fueling facility would be on St. John. and we're restricted to the barge ramp area, and or to use the supplier that transportation services use, which is exuberant. It is closed.
Excuse me, Mrs. Barlett, when you say St. John, are you referring to the facility at Canal Bay?
That is one of the options, but their cost for fuel is very exuberant.
Okay,
And
so so the one that's closer to the National Park dock?
that is correct.
Okay, continue.
On several occasions, I have had to utilize that facility, but it would only be an amount that would tie me over until the other supplier would be available. Again, and that would be fueling over at the barge ramp or taking one of the vessels to Charlotte Amalia if I'm assigned for that Charlotte Amalia run for that particular week. But those are our options.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes, do you want to finish on your comments, please?
Yeah, setting aside the refueling logistics, which do appear to be a little difficult. Ms. Farlock, how many boats are you currently being compensated to provide through depreciation and amortization in the current rate structure? How many boats are you supposed to have available to the ratepayers?
I have 3 vessels available.
Okay, and what vessels are those, please?
The Red Hook one, the Lady Venture, and the Venture Pride.
Are Lady Venture and Venture Pride both in the territory, serviceable and approved by the Coast Guard?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you wouldn't happen to know how many vessels Transportation Services is obligated to provide?
No, I am not aware of that.
Attorney Hodge, any information there?
I don't know what you mean by obligated, so how many they have currently in operation?
Well, they're being paid to make a certain number of vessels through the amortization and depreciation clauses of the rate to have those vessels available to the ratepayers. How many vessels are you being compensated for currently in the current rate?
So respectfully, Commissioner, I don't think that's the correct description of their present arrangement. I believe that they have 2 vessels currently in operation.
What are the names of those vessels, please?
Yeah, one is either Red Hook 1 or Cruise Bay 1, and the other one is Spirit of 1776.
Okay, I think it's Cruise Bay 1.
I can assure you in the current rate structure, there are a specific number of vessels that are being amortized and for which the ferry boat companies are receiving consideration. It isn't a question as to how many those vessels are. They were part of the prior rate calculation. Ms.
But
Varlock,
Commissioner, that you have a new statute as of
excuse me.
2016
Excuse me,
that
Attorney
changed the
Hodge.
rate structure.
Attorney Hodge, please let him finish and we'll let you make your comments. Thank you very much.
I think that Ms. Varlock has very accurately, stated her compensation as the 3 boats. I'm just curious how many boats Boyce is being compensated for.
Okay, you can answer that question now.
Yeah.
Attorney Hodge, please.
So the statute that is currently in effect for these companies, Commissioner, does not provide for depreciation of vessels in terms of rates. It provides for a return on the fair value of applied assets, and I guess that's an issue. I guess that's an issue we'll be briefing to you.
It's
Okay.
actually that's inaccurate, and we're not talking about the statute. We're talking about the rate base calculation that was the foundation of the current $6 rate. It absolutely contemplated consideration paid to the ferry boat companies for a certain number of boats to be provided. You're receiving a depreciation or an amortization for a certain number of boats. It's part of the rate structure. We're going to review that for the new rate structure and perhaps take a different view of it, but there is an existing rate structure and it specifies the boats that you're being paid to provide. Ms. Varlock is being paid under a formula for the 3 boats that she just mentioned. Boyce is being paid, Transportation Services is being paid for a certain number of boats. My only question was, how many boats?
There are two boats that are currently in operation. I've
I
identified them
didn't
by
ask
name.
that. Because that's really the point, is there are boats in operation and there are boats that are being paid for to be in operation. And I'm trying to get to, are the boats available to the ratepayer?
So, Mr. Chairman, all I can say to you as a lawyer who has read the statute that governs this commission and its setting of rates for these companies is that we clearly have a very different point of view about what the role of the commission is under present law.
Okay, Attorney Spring has a question.
No, I have a comment, if I may. In Appendix F to the testimony of Avery Williams in the current rate case, the vessels listed for the two different companies include for transportation services, Spirit of 1733 and Cruise Bay 1, which are the two government provided vessels through Department of Public Works. And it includes Carib Tide and Carib K as vessels that are used by transportation services in the provision of services.
Carib Tide, and what was the last one?
Carib K,
Carib K.
or Carib Key if you prefer.
Thank you.
Attorney Hodge, are those two vessels serviceable and in the territory?
Both of those vessels, to my understanding.
All four of them.
Both of the two
Are all
vessels
four
that
of
the
those
commissioner is
vessels?
asking.
I think
Two of the vessels are in operation. The two that I named, I think I got my year wrong, 1733 and
I always get it wrong.
1776.
I know it.
And Red Hook 1. The two other vessels, the older vessels, to my understanding, are currently under repair.
Okay. so
How
I
long
believe
have they been under repair?
A number of years.
Really? Okay. So the Carib Tide and the Carib Key are under repair. Thank you. Commissioner
I think they've
Hughes.
been under repair since the hurricanes, so almost 9 years now.
Oh, wow.
So I guess the reason I bring this up is that the ferry boats have asked for a consideration for fuel. And I believe it is the case that for a very long period of time, and maybe still, you're being compensated for assets that you're legally obligated under the rate base to provide that you are not providing. So you're being overcompensated. It's going to be one of the conclusions, I believe, certainly in the interim report, that has been the case since the hurricanes. And I believe that those amounts should offset to the extent that we calculate for this emergency fuel surcharge. I believe that it matters that you're being overcompensated for vessels you are obligated to provide under the current rate that you are not providing. And I would like those amounts netted out.
So, Commissioner, I'm just going to respectfully say to you that perspective.
Wait 1 second, the truck is passing. Just hold up for a
Pardon?
The truck was passing and we couldn't hear you.
Say it louder.
You know, a truck was passing.
Oh,
and we
sorry.
couldn't hear you, yeah.
I'm
it's
just going to respectfully submit, Commission, that to the extent that you refer to data that was before the commission when the rates were last set 10 years ago, that the company was not then operating the two vessels that are currently in operation, and then obviously not being compensated for operating those vessels either. So the idea that they would be penalized now for the fact that two vessels are under repair while they're operating two vessels that are statutorily mandated to be included in their compensation is just inexplicable to me. It's punitive. It is incomprehensible.
Well,
It is contrary to the statute, and it is contrary to constitutional law, which requires companies to be reasonably compensated for their operation of a public utility.
I think that you should probably rely then less on the statutory language, which is limited, and more on an understanding of how this rate is calculated and the rate base is determined, which we are going through that exercise now. I suspect you'll come up to speed pretty quickly on how the commission views assets to be deployed by the ferry boat companies. That's okay. I think I got the answer to my question, which is two of the boats that you're being paid for to provide are not in service. The question is how much are you being compensated in the current rate structure to provide those boats that you're not providing? And
Do you have any more comments, Commissioner Hughes, or
thank you,
questions?
Chair. Appreciate it.
Okay, Commission. Okay,
No question.
no questions, no comments. Okay, would anyone like to make a motion? Or would we even like to make a motion to defer this request to a different time?
I move the matter be moved to the June meeting.
Does anyone second that?
I'll second it for discussions.
Okay, so let's get a vote, please.
Commissioner Clement McGrath,
No.
Commissioner Laura Nicholson,
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams,
Yes,
Commissioner David Hughes,
Yes.
So the votes say that three
voting yea.
three voting yea, one voting no, that we move this to the next meeting in June, just what, June 9th? June 9th. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Let's see, what is that? Oh, St. John Ferry rate investigation. Who speaks on that? Would that be
We have
Mr. Jed John
Mr.
Hope?
Jed John Hope,
Yeah.
is the hearing examiner present.
Mr. Jed John Hope,
Online, and we
are you
have-
still here?
yes.
Yes, good morning, good morning.
Okay. You've already been sworn. Have you been sworn in yet? Yeah, okay, so go ahead. No,
She was-
he was sworn in a little while ago. Okay, so go ahead. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good morning. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up.
Okay.
All right, so we have been going through this rate case for roughly the last year, presenting an interim report to the commissioners a few months back, and I now have a draft report in hand, hoping to finalize it pending your recommendations as well as recommendations as comments, as well as input from the general public. But in short, I recommend denying the rate increase. Commissioner Hughes previously alluded to some of the issues that we found through our investigation. There are boats that have been outside of the territory for almost 10 years that are being compensated for. There are boats that have been retired, they're being compensated for. And the way that the legislature seems to have structured the agreement or the enabling statute compensates the ferry companies for boats that they did not buy. So it's just I recommend kind of simplifying the approach to this. Decoupling the Charlotte Amalie route. The Red Hook Cruise Bay route is the main transportation corridor and should be looked at separately. The Charlotte Amalie route only accounts for about 3% of the traffic, and obviously you need to have at least 2 boats to do that reliably. You need to kind of separate these two. The Charlotte Amalie route just kind of obscures the math. Some other things that I found was there was a ton of issues with the data integrity and oversight. It's nonsensical that the ferry companies jointly own the ticketing apparatus, which makes it impossible to verify ridership and revenue. But on top of that, I recommend auditing payroll and staffing, fuel consumption, vessel utilization by route. The numbers were not very transparent. So given all of the above, I do not believe that a rate increase is necessary at this time.
Thank you, Mr. John Jed Hope. Does anybody else like to speak on that? Attorney Hodge, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, Maria Hodge for the Fair Companies. We would like at this time to reserve all objections to the draft report of the hearing examiner, both as to matters of law, evidence, fact, and procedure. One thing I would say to the commission now at this stage, as the draft report is before you, is that we have a preliminary objection to the suggestion in the report that the commission has complete discretion to decide to rearrange the fare categories and to essentially eliminate the preference for local residents in favor of giving a fare discount to tourists. That is a finding that disregards a lengthy opinion of the Public Services Commission's own legal counsel in the last rate case that concluded that rates favoring local residents and commuters were and are constitutional and entirely legal and appropriate. The finding by the hearing examiner in the draft report appears to be an effort to evade responsibility to make a specific recommendation on rates, and it disregards the long history of fares that protected local residents from undue fares when they were commuters, children going to school, people going to St. Thomas for shopping, and so on. For some reason, it is only the locally owned companies that are the public utilities before you that have been subjected to this kind of recommendation. And the ferry boat companies have long resisted this idea that the local residents are not entitled to special protection in their rates. There was not a single witness at any of the hearings in St. Thomas or St. John who spoke in favor of equalizing rates to give tourists a discount, which would necessarily, I mean, just inherently as a matter of mathematics, require an increase in the rates to local residents. The PSC staff has submitted a brief that suggested that it was inclined to agree with that idea, that the preference for local residents could be removed and that the tourists could be given a special benefit in an alternative rate structure. But this is not consistent with either the law or the evidence that was provided, and certainly not with the history of these companies. We'd like to have the commission at this very early stage look with care at the draft report on this specific issue and recognize the importance of protecting our local consumers from any rate increase that would result from eliminating the distinction between local residents and tourists in fare settings. The two companies, as you know, have been operating these public ferry boats between St. Thomas and St. John for over 50 years. These are two families that formed these local companies as family businesses before there was any franchise. They weren't public utilities when they started. They started with two small vessels. They trained their own children to operate the vessels. And they are committed to this community, the community of St. Thomas and St. John, and to protecting the people of St. Thomas and St. John. For some reason, the draft report suggests that it would be within the commission's discretion and almost implies it would be appropriate to eliminate that special consideration for local residents in the fares for the ferry boats. We notice that there are any number of amenities for tourists who visit the Virgin Islands where they pay more. If you go to Magens Bay, you pay more if you're a tourist. If you go to the contraption that takes you up to the hilltop in St. Thomas, you pay more if you're a tourist. And for the commuters between St. Thomas and St. John, it's especially critical that this be maintained because we rely on that as a community to get to and from work, school, shopping, doctor's offices, everything critical to a working community. The one distinction that was mentioned in a brief to the hearing examiner by PSC staff was that when the last rates were set in 2016, I remind you, we haven't had a rate increase in a decade, that at that point, the vessels were not provided by the federal government, and that somehow that would be a reason why the ability to give some preference to local residents would be lost because the federal government supplied some vessels. But they are not the only ones contributing to this transportation system. The Virgin Islands government supplies the roads that get us to the dock. They supply the docks. They supply the police that protect us. They supply the fire department that protects us. So our community is supporting this public marine highway. And the idea that tourists need to be protected from the possibility of paying a little more for a ferry boat ticket, we submit to you is just not accurate. There was not only was there no.
Attorney Hodge, I understand. I would like Mr. Jed John Hope to comment on what you're saying about no consideration for local
Yeah.
residents in the
Yeah,
rate fair.
I would love to jump in at this point. I made no specific recommendation, whether it was, what the rate should be. What I did say in the report, I do not think that Attorney Hodge read it, is that that decision on who gets charged what lies solely with the commission. So it's up to the commission to determine who, pays what. My job
Okay.
is my job is to determine what the rate base is, and by my
Okay.
math, the ferry companies have overcharged the people of this territory to the tune of $7 million over the last, 10, 12 years. That's the heart of the rate case. Deciding, whether tourists pay an extra dollar or two was not contemplated in my report, and I laid that at the feet of the commission to decide. It's not for the ferry companies to decide who pays what. That responsibility
Okay.
lies with the commissioners.
Your point is noted. Attorney Spring, please.
Commissioner
Wait,
Hughes has his hand raised.
who did?
Commissioner Hughes?
Oh, Commissioner Hughes will come right back to you, Attorney Spring. Commissioner Hughes?
You actually asked the question for me. I wasn't aware that Mr. John Hope had made a recommendation one way or the other, and I agree with him that is solely the purview of the commission, not the ferry boat companies, not the hearing examiner. He's certainly entitled to his opinion and his report, which is still interim, by the way, not a final report that we're acting on. I appreciate Attorney Hodges' position, which is that it should include a subsidy, and the commission at an appropriate time will take that into its view of how we divide up the rate base. I didn't think Mr. John Hope made a recommendation for one way or the other. I haven't even seen a rate recommended yet, only that an increase in the rate base was probably not appropriate. And this is an interim report, so we're not there yet. I do take the report to ask questions of the commission, which is I think what we ought to be trying to do today, which is to give him direction on how to finish the report so that we can take up these points. And there were several items in his report that basically begged questions of the commission, decoupling the downtown route being one of them. Whether or not we need to do work on his recommendation that the data is insufficient. So should the commission order staff to come up with a audit procedure to verify fuel and labor before we write it into law here in a new rate case? Those are things I think we can do today, which is to guide the completion of the report by answering some of the hearing examiner's open questions.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Attorney Spring, you had a comment.
A few, if I may. Thank you, Attorney Sprain, for the PSC. I would apologize. I should have made a comment at the outset of this process to help clarify for the sake of those listening. The agenda item today is not to make a final decision on the rate case, because in the process of doing the rate investigation and preparing the draft report, we had 2 public hearings. And at those public hearings, there was comments from the public that they wanted to have an additional opportunity to comment. And the hearing examiner at that time pledged that the draft report would be made available for a 2-week period for public comment. That 2-week period is ongoing and actually ends tomorrow. So we are still receiving public comments on that draft hearing report. We have scheduled later this week a draft report or a draft conference between the franchisees, the hearing examiner, and PSC staff to begin the process of preparing a final report to have available for the commission's June meeting. I would acknowledge the comments of both the hearing examiner and Commissioner Hughes, but there are a number of matters that are before the commission ultimately for decision, whether that decision is made today or your next one. One of the reasons it was left on the agenda today was to try and identify issues that we need to address before that June hearing, whether that requires additional information from the hearing examiner, from the franchisees, or the staff. It afforded the opportunity for you to put those questions on the table. I do want to address one particular comment that Attorney Hodge made, and the language was used there. The PSC staff at no point said that tourists should be provided a special benefit. What we said was that the question of whether or not a special extra charge should continue to be applied to tourists. Not that they should be charged a lower rate than residents, should they be charged an equivalent rate or a lesser excess charge? That's the question that's before the commission at this point. We did not suggest a number. We have said that there is an extensive federal subsidy now involved in this process. There's a federal subsidy in two different ways. There is a cash subsidy available to each of the franchisees through the federal government. And the presence of the vessels itself constitutes a federal subsidy. The basis of local residents being provided a lower rate for access to facilities provided through the local government is that the local residents are providing the funding for that, that service. That is not necessarily the case here. The local government does provide a subsidy. It is less than the amount that's available through the federal subsidy, either one of the federal subsidies. And the tourists are currently at the current rates paying a larger portion of the carrying cost of the operation than locals. Again, we made no recommendation as a specific level. That is something that is within the commission's discretion in establishing rates.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that for today.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Smart. Okay, Attorney Hodge, we've already discussed the consideration for local residents. Do you have any other comments you'd like to make on the draft?
Well, I would just like to, not on the draft, I would reserve objection, but I would just like to say, I did not say that the recommendation was that tourists should pay less than locals. My understanding of the recommendation was that it was a suggestion that the rate should be made equivalent. That is to say that the discount provided to locals should be eliminated and that there should be some sort of an equal fare for tourists and locals. And the effect of that would necessarily be that you would have to raise local rates because you can't reduce one without increasing the other. If I wasn't making myself clear on that, Attorney Sprain, I apologize.
You have anything else you'd like to add?
No, we're reserving our objections to
Okay.
The
Your
final
final.
report.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Attorney Hughes, did you have any additional comments you'd like to make?
So I'd like some discussion amongst the commissioners here, because we have some questions in front of us. If we want to conclude this rate case, we really need to give the hearing examiner some guidance. I would propose that there's a question before us that says we should, at the recommendation of the hearing examiner, at a minimum decouple the rate calculations from the downtown run vis-a-vis the Red Hook Cruise Bay run, which would allow us to get at the 97% of ridership and conclude the rate case for the Cruise Bay Red Hook run without the complicating factors of how much of that is being obscured by additional boats necessary and additional subsidies to carry the other 3% of people. I'd like the thoughts of the other commissioners on whether or not we want to go ahead and do that and give the hearing examiner in order, at least guidance that say, please complete the Red Hook Cruise Bay analysis on its own while we determine how we want to accommodate the downtown run, or if we want to continue to accommodate in a rate regulation the downtown run.
So when you say decouple, what's my name? Laura Nicholson. When you say decoupling, are you saying the possibility of eliminating that run, or are you just saying let's take apart the finances of each of those different runs so that they can be looked at as separate entities?
Well, we should understand how the overall rate base is currently built and how it's about to be built if we don't change something. A big chunk of the rate base, which is the amount of revenue necessary to fairly compensate the ferry boats under the statute. A big chunk of this is depreciation of assets properly applied. And for practical matters, that means boats, because there aren't any substantial other assets being properly applied. So the problem with the downtown run is that even though it's 3% of ridership, it does in fact require a couple boats to run it. My personal view is that we should refrain from regulating the rate of the downtown run, given that it has commercial competition, and that we should take a recommendation from the ferry boat companies as to what they think that run should generate as a rate, and probably adopt their recommendation. Without getting into a calculation of how much or why, I'd be willing to take the recommendation of whoever's running the route as to what they think it ought to cost. Instead of $13, maybe that's closer to the $20 that the Crown Bay guy's charging, or I'm indifferent to the amount. I think it should be set by the ferry boat companies in a non-regulated rate environment. I think the commission could continue to regulate the customer service aspects of the run, but that would be about it. We would simply refrain from a regulated rate structure for the downtown run. That allows us to very clearly address the run which is most consequential to the Virgin Islands residents and tourists, which is the Cruise Bay Red Hook run. I think that's a recommendation that we should make, and I'm curious as to whether or not the other commissioners are open to that approach.
What other questions did you have that you would like to?
I think that the commissioners very clearly, because of its effect on rates, need to answer the question: how many boats are necessary to be included in the rate structure for the Cruise Bay Red Hook run? What is the proper amount of assets applied, so that the hearing examiner can make his calculations on the number of boats that the ferry boat companies need to be compensated for? I think the commissioners should speak on the matter of whether or not a private company should be compensated through appreciation and amortization of assets that they made no investment in, which is the 3 government boats. They've made an application that says that they should be able to recover the costs of those boats, even though they didn't pay for them, which I think the Department of Transportation, the Federal Department of Transportation, would have a huge problem with, given that it was a subsidy to the territory to bring rates down. I think the commission should answer the question, in my view, that those 3 government boats are sufficient to run the Red Hook and Cruise Bay route, and that those 3 boats are not eligible for recovery of costs to the ferry boat companies, since they made no investment in those assets. If we could give the hearing examiner that guidance today, he could largely, he had better data on labor and fuel, he could largely complete this rate case and make his final recommendations. I think that the commission should further order staff to design an audit of fuel and labor prior to the completion of this rate case. Those numbers are held in question by the hearing examiner, and our staff is more than capable of providing the clarity through a small audit process of how to audit the actual labor and fuel necessary to run the Cruise Bay Red Hook route. Those would be my suggestions to my fellow commissioners, is that if we could just provide those 2 or 3 things to the hearing examiner, we could get through this and get done with this rate case, which has been going on for a year.
Okay, any other questions or comments for you?
No.
Thank you.
I don't know that I'm prepared to answer all those questions for the hearing examiner today. On the issue of decoupling, I definitely agree with that position, but I'd still like to delve further into that. I'd like to prefer to take up some of that conversation in the executive session. So that's it.
Maybe schedule a separate executive session for that. Yeah. So I don't think we have all the information. What about you? Okay. So for me, go ahead. You agree with that? Yeah, I feel like I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Hughes. I do agree with that. But I do feel like that there's more information that we don't have right here to make those decisions right now. So as what's your last name, Aaron? I'm sorry, I'm having a senior moment. Commissioner Williams stated maybe we should schedule just like an executive session when we have all the information that we need to answer those questions to tackle that. And then maybe have it ready for the next meeting in June. How do you
So
feel about that, Commissioner Hughes?
So understanding we're not making final determinations here, we're just giving direction to either staff or the hearing examiner. I would suggest it's entirely appropriate that this commission, the four of us, order staff to come up with a simple audit process for fuel and labor, because I think that we need better data. So I don't think that hurts anybody to have us tell staff, we want you guys to tell us how you would audit fuel and labor. Because guys, if we can't audit fuel and labor in a rate, then we don't know that the rate's appropriate. So it's, to me, a simple matter. Let's just ask our staff or order our staff to advise us of an audit process for fuel and labor. Whether or not we actually perform that audit is still an open question. Whether or not we perform it in the future is still an open question. But I think our staff needs to have the capability to audit two of the largest drivers in rates, because we may come back to this a year from now and say, again, is the rate appropriate because labor and fuel have changed? We don't have any way to audit and independently audit that number. We don't have financial audits. We're simply taking the numbers given to us by a fuel consultant or a consultant to the ferryboat companies, and that's not enough for a Public Services Commission to make a determination on. So I would suggest that this commission order staff to come up with an audit process. Not that we're going to adopt it, but just that they come up with a recommendation for audit. I would also make a motion that we ask the hearing examiner to decouple the rate structures between the two routes and make a separate recommendation for the Cruise Bay Red Hook route. That leaves open the question, what do we do with the downtown route? And there are a number of answers for that. We may deregulate it completely. We may ask for recommendations separately. We may run a separate rate process. We don't have to make that determination today, but if we want to get this rate case done for the 97% of people, then we have to give, or at least get, the hearing examiner's opinion on what that would look like separately.
Okay, Commissioner Hughes, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make
for
those
this?
two motions, understanding that is not the entirety of what I would suggest. Can we dispense with the matters? I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
I move that staff be directed to design an audit process to audit the consumption of fuel and the provision of labor for the Cruise Bay Red Hook route. So moved.
Second.
Let's take a vote.
Commissioner Clement McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nicholson,
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner David Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first one. So we have all four commissioners voting yes.
The second motion I would make is that the hearing examiner be directed in his final report to recommend a rate structure which decouples the downtown run from the Red Hook Cruise Bay route. So moved.
Second.
Amendment.
Oh, go ahead. Commissioner McGrath has an amendment.
Commissioner Hughes, I would just like to ask about, before I make an amendment, the possibility of asking him to give us an alternative, look at it decoupled and the way it is, rather than just one way.
Well, I actually that's kind of what I intended.
So that we can see what the alternative is.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we get a look at the independent route. We're not making I'm not making any recommendation in this motion about what we do about the rate for downtown. I just want to be able to look at the clean rate for Cruise Bay and Red Hook and see if that makes sense to just adopt that on a standalone basis. That's the purpose of the motion. It makes no conclusion with respect to the downtown route.
What would you propose it? What would you propose?
No, I'm not gonna make it.
Okay, then let's vote, please. He says he's not gonna make an amendment.
So 2 points of order, Chair. First of all, just so we all keep our Robert's rules in order. When a motion is seconded, You as chair would call for discussion, which probably would have
Okay,
mitigated, given Commissioner McGrath the opportunity to ask questions or have further discussion. Second of all, there is nothing in Robert's rules that allows a commissioner to amend a motion separately. Well, he can propose an amendment, which then must be voted upon before the original motion can be voted upon. So in
Thank
terms
you
of
for the
our internal
correction.
process, yeah.
No
Okay.
amendment was made.
Yeah, I understand,
You
but had
can't
you,
propose an amendment.
had you made one, you would simply say, I move an amendment, and we would have then had to take your conversation up and suspend my motion. That's.
You can
Okay,
have-
since
you can
this
have
is-
discussion before you
since this-
have the amendment, and we were
Yeah.
having a discussion, and I withdrew my motion. for the amendment.
So we've been
okay, since
skipping.
this is gonna be confusing to the public, why don't you, make your motion again so that we're clear?
State my
No,
motion.
no, I call the question. Let's go.
Yes, thank you.
I call the question.
The motion's been made and seconded. We have to vote on it or have further.
Okay,
Yeah, I call the
we
question.
haven't voted on it yet.
We're gonna vote now.
Commissioner Clement McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nichols Arms.
Yes,
Commissioner Raymond Williams.
Yes,
okay, all four commissioners have, I said, all four commissioners have
Commissioner
said
David
yes.
Hughes, yeah.
Oh, Commissioner Hughes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so all four commissioners have voted yes? Okay,
So the last
So-
point that the hearing examiner is tacitly asked for guidance on, and it's the main driver in rates, which is how many boats should we be considering for recovery of investment? I think I would ask the ferry boat companies if there is any way to substantiate the idea that the Red Hook Cruise Bay route needs more than the 3 government provided boats that are currently servicing it. And that would be a question for the ferry boat companies, because my motion would be, hearing that answer, since I know that I know that the route has operated on 2 boats for approximately 9 years now since the hurricane, and that we've now added a 3rd boat. I think the natural conclusion for the commission is that that number of boats is sufficient for this route, and that therefore the hearing examiner should be directed to use those assets in his calculation of a rate base. That's where I'm headed with this, which is that the hearing examiner be directed to use those 3 boats as the basis for the rate base calculation. I'd make that motion today because I think the answer is obvious. That's how the route is operated. But if we think we have to have more discussion on whether or not more than 3 boats is necessary, because that changes the rate if it's more than 3 boats.
I have a comment on that. I think the comment you just made, we definitely would need the ferry companies to jump in and provide information for that. We have to look at the fact that when they were operating 2 boats, it was because of an emergency basis that the service was actually slow. We didn't have as many routes because they were only operating 2 boats. And then that also doesn't leave time for maintenance and, for them to properly take care of the boats because it was an emergency situation. Maybe adding a 3rd boat will put them in a different situation, but I really think that that's something that they need to weigh in on it as well. That's my comment on that.
Do we want to have that conversation today since we have everyone here?
Don't have everyone here.
No, is anyone from we don't have both of the ferry boat company owners here. And I do think that they should definitely weigh in because that will significantly affect the type of service they could provide.
Okay, I'm assuming that,
Do you understand?
if we're going to wait for that, then it doesn't really matter to hear Mr. John Hope's current opinion right now either. He can wait.
can that question be asked through the staff of the ferry companies?
I'm sorry, sir, I couldn't hear.
No, I'm asking of the question relative to the number of votes. If that question can be asked through our staff. Because to use this point, I don't want to keep kicking the can.
Right.
So if they can ascertain that information and let us know, then we can proceed from there.
the last point,
I think that question was asked during the hearings, and there's a record in the transcript of the answers from the companies. I'd be glad to look for that in the transcripts for you. I don't think that the summary given by Commissioner Hughes is correct.
Through the chair to the hearing examiner, do you have an answer for that in your report?
Yes, I recommend 3 boats with a commission authorized option for a 4th. Based on their fuel logs, it looks like they're pretty much running the 3 government operated boats with limited service from other boats. So my recommendation there is to maximize the federal assets, maximize the uptime of the federal assets. So yeah, believe it or not, you are pretty much running 3 to 4 boats right now.
Thank you very much. I'm good with that.
Okay.
I'm good. That's the answer. So that's
So you're good with 4 boats?
3.
3, you said 3 and 4 is what they're
3.
operating on.
3.
3 with kind of emergency, call it
That's
emergency
one
option for a 4th.
Say that again, Mr. John Hope.
3 with an emergency option for a 4th, because obviously things happening, maintenance and things like that. But it looks like if you were just to, like we said, decouple the routes, the Red Hook route should be able to get by on 3 boats.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Hughes.
so I
Do you
would point
wanna-
out that on an emergency basis, Varlock Ventures was able to operate this entire schedule, and it wasn't easy, but they ran this with 1 boat for.
It wasn't the entire schedule,
It
because
was-
some of the times were omitted.
Okay, so they were able
This is
to
true.
manage in an emergency environment on 1 boat. We're talking about 3, one of which is substantially larger. When hearing examiner John Hope talks about an emergency option for a 4th boat, I think what he's probably suggesting is that Varlock, who only operates technically 1 of the 3 government boats, perhaps be given a lease or some form of consideration if they had to bring a 2nd boat into play. Not a full obligation of a boat, but if they found it necessary, that the commission crafts some sort of compensation system whereby if they're running their 2nd boat because for whatever reason they can't be accommodated by the 3 government boats, borrowing 1 from Boyce, whatever, the commission come up with a way to look at the distinct possibility that a 4th boat maybe has to come into play, short of actually obligating a 4th boat full time. That's not hard to do. We could just craft a little lease with Ms. Varlock for her 2nd boat, and if it comes into play, that's something she can be compensated for. The last point I wanted to address, which was a bit of housekeeping, is if you decide, or whatever you decide, we decide on the 3 government boats, I think the commission should take the position recommended by our council and supported by common sense that in no situation should the ferry boat companies be entitled to collect in rates recovery of the value of those boats since they made no investment in them. It's a housekeeping point, but it's a housekeeping point that the hearing examiner has to have in his pocket before he can actually finish the calculations. He has to know whether or not he's going to depreciate for the benefit of the ferry boat companies the value of the federal property. We haven't told him yes or no, and we need to, because yeah, I think the ferry boat companies in their application have said that they get compensated for the value of these boats. That to me makes no sense. I know Attorney Sprain has an opinion on that as well. We need to clarify that question, and I think we could do that today.
Thank you. Thank you. Attorney Spring, would you like to make a comment on that?
No.
No.
I would not, if we could get that 3rd motion restated before we have a vote on it.
Okay. The one that was just made.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to make a
I'm
motion?
not clear on what the motion is itself, so.
I hadn't made one, but are we talking about how many votes are necessary?
Yes, I understood that you wanted to make a 3rd motion. If you didn't, that's fine, but
I'll actually make it in not in 2 parts, but as a comprehensive motion. I move that the Red Hook Cruise Bay route be considered fully serviced by the 3 government boats, and that those boats are not eligible for cost recovery by the private ferry boat companies because they are government assets for which no investment has been made. So
Please,
moved.
you gotta speak up a little, please.
Okay. Did you get any of that? You want me to restate it?
Yes, please. Thank you.
I move that for the Cruise Bay Red Hook route, that the 3 government boats currently in operation are sufficient assets for the operation of that route, and that no recovery of the capital value of those assets is eligible for recovery by the ferry boat companies. So moved.
Second,
Let's take a vote, please.
Commissioner Clement McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams.
yes,
Commissioner Laura Nichols Sams.
Yes.
Commissioner David Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, so all 4 have said yes.
Yes.
motion approved.
Motion approved.
Chair and my commissioners, thank you for your patience in this conversation. I think we have substantially moved forward the hearing examiner's ability now to complete his report.
Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to the next matter,
Before you do that,
oh wait, excuse me.
may I ask Attorney Hodge to give us a copy of your statement that you made today?
About this rate case?
Yes.
Your report.
A copy of her statement today. Was that?
That's our minutes, but yeah.
Thank you.
No, I think.
Give it
Do you want to
us.
just email it to us?
Staff
Just
make
a
some
reading
copies.
copy.
Recess one.
Yeah, let's have a 15-minute recess, please. Yeah, we're done with the ferry.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to change that to leave on Sunday. Is that? Everybody understands. Hey, my girlfriend. Oh. Sorry.
I have to sign.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Can I read this? Okay. Hold on. Okay, we're back from our break. The next item on our agenda today is Energy Matters. We have docket 706, WAPA Electric System Rate Case. Who speaks on this matter?
Probably me first.
Go right ahead. Thanks.
We are obligated by statute to do a rate investigation of each of the regulated utilities at least once every 5 years. The last completed rate investigation for WAPA's electric system was in January of 2020. And in respect to that, last year, we began a rate investigation. Genevieve Whitaker has been appointed as the hearing examiner in that rate investigation. And she had begun her work, but we have kind of stalled out over the last few months. In the last 2 months, the commission has contracted for new electric consultants on this. And those gentlemen are on board, and I'm prepared to introduce those to you today. And I would suggest that would probably be the next appropriate step. Those gentlemen are Mr. Julius Wright. It is his firm, J.A. Wright and Associates, that we contracted with. They are based in Georgia. Associated with Mr. Wright is Larry Brockman. I see both of those gentlemen online. And then the third individual who we arranged to have subcontract with J.A. Wright is Mr. Courtney Mark. Mr. Courtney Mark is the former Chief Technical Officer for the Trinidad and Tobago Electric Commission. He's an engineer with experience working extensively in the Caribbean utility work. We have introduced the new consulting team to WAPA. They have been meeting with WAPA and the personnel involved at Ernst & Young who are providing support to WAPA over the last several weeks. And we've also had a conference with Ms. Whitaker to introduce them to them, and we are about to sort of move both processes forward. And I will defer, I guess, at this point, if you would like to hear from Mr. Wright first.
Yes, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Wright.
Good morning.
If you have anything you want to say as an introductory measure, please feel free to do so.
Were you speaking to me, Mr. Sprint, or
Yes.
to
Yes, sir.
Commissioner?
Yes, to you,
Well, I
Mr.
just
Wright.
appreciate. Okay, I just appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys. As you know, I lived on island for a number of years, taught at the university, so I appreciate the opportunity to work with you and get back to the island on occasion.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Can we please hear now from Mr. Larry Brockman? Mr. Larry Brockman, please.
Yes, hello. As Mr. Wright said, I appreciate the opportunity to work with the commission and process this rate case in the LEAC. And we're learning a lot about the island and been pretty busy the last couple of months just trying to get up to speed and make it a smooth transition from the old consultant to the new consultants. So we're glad to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Larry Brockman. And let's hear from Mr. Courtney Mark, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's like 1 minute to midday, so I can still say good morning. Thank you very much for the kind introduction and pleasant good day to the commissioners. My name is Courtney Mark. I worked with the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission as a professional engineer, graduated with second postgraduate degrees, both in engineering and management. And I'm happy to be working with the PSC. Permit me to say that my engagement was first with the PSC and I became an associate with J.W. Wright and Associates. And I just want to make one fundamental observation. And I'm encouraged to make this observation by the comments made by Mr. David Hughes, your chairman. And that has a lot to do with simplicity. permit me to say that I have discovered that through the minimum filing requirements, there are many things, I'm just saying things, that are stated in there that sometimes need to be verified in simple ways that the PSC could backcheck and understand from their own standpoint some degree of verification. So quite apart from what may appear in dockets 702 and 706 as it relates to the filings, I am also working diligently to develop simple methods that the PSC, when they apply it, can make their own assessments of the data that they are looking at. I don't want to overstay my welcome, but I'm just leaving that in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would any of the commissioners, did any of the commissioners have any comments or?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great
Okay,
to have
so
all
the
of you.
next,
Thank you.
thanks. So the next is the electric rate investigation status from hearing examiners, the report, Mrs. Whitaker. Ms. Whitaker here?
She is.
Okay. Okay, I see you're trying.
Good morning, Commissioners.
You
Can
can
everyone
see-
hear me? And probably can everyone hear me?
Okay, there's something weird going on with your microphone.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
She's echoing oddly.
Oh, okay, there's like an echo. I don't know what to do. If you can just slow down, because there's an echo when you speak. Does she need to be sworn in? Is it report? Attorney Spring?
I'm sorry?
Does she need to be sworn in for her report? Yeah, let's go ahead.
You've been doing it to the other here
Yeah,
examiner, I
let's
guess
do
we
it.
should.
Okay. Ms. Whitaker, can you raise your right hand and be sworn in, please?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Remember to talk slowly because of that echo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we can't hear you at all now.
Good morning. Actually, good afternoon now, right? Good afternoon to all the commissioners, to the PSC staff, and the members of the public. I just want to share as assigned to this matter. I want to kind of go over just briefly since my appointment, officially appointed, of course, last year, back in on April. Since my appointment, I've been engaged in extensive review of WAPA filings, financial information, operational data, and supporting materials related to the electric system rate case. This work has included meetings with WAPA executive leadership, including financial and operational personnel, review of financial statements, debt obligations, capital expenditures, and revenue requirements. Review of accounting schedules, historical financial trends, coordination with the commission. I want to also acknowledge Attorney Boyd and the team in the PSC support of my efforts. And one of the things I just want to highlight is while I've had a series of meetings with WAPA leadership, including, of course, obviously with CFO Kelly, there still remains a number of items that even in my initial request, because it involved sending letters ahead of these meetings, as well as the follow-ups that I've done. And I also want to really thank all of the consultants who I've had a meeting with, that we can definitely move to the next phase. One important thing I want to clarify as it pertains to, and we're focusing on obviously on the fuel rate charges, is that our next phase and to WAPA's leadership is where information that we do need to receive so we can really move forward and focus on some of these specific areas. The core operational costs, the debt service obligations, information about various mechanisms, recovery, and we really need to dive into the cost of service analysis, but that's going to require, of greater information and transparency on the part of WAPA's leadership. And of course, work to date, information that I have received, I've received as I've met with the WAPA leadership. I've learned a lot about WAPA's financial condition and liquidity. I've learned to a level about their projected debt obligations, some of the historical and projected operational expenditures, accounting schedules and supporting work papers, but certainly additional information is going to be necessary for us to move forward. And in terms of where we are, I have drafted yet another letter, even as we work with the new technical assistant consultants. We're really going to have to dive into, for one, a more coordinated effort as it pertains to the receipt of this financial information that we've been requesting. I also want to highlight the attorney board has worked extensively on this as well to get information from WAPA. Diving into the cost allocation methodologies, assessing whether a lot of the requested costs are appropriately recoverable through the base rates, and identifying areas requiring additional clarification on supplemental production. We're also looking into evaluating, once we're able to get those information, so we can move forward with a cost of service study, a framework going forward for WAPA really meeting the requirements as we get information from them. And in the commitment to the process, as I've shared with technical consultants, we are working on, and I do acknowledge the importance of simplicity as well, a system where we can have our internal system where we can utilize that to work together collaboratively so we can move forward and get this information. My really hope is that we can include that this year. So my focus remains also thorough and independent review, clear and organized record, as well as transparency in the process. I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I look forward to any questions commission members may have as we move forward with this. And I want to thank all who's involved in this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the commissioners? Do we start with Commissioner Hughes?
I just have a comment. Yeah, I've watched the process here with hearing examiner Whitaker closely and offered her some suggestions about separating base rate issues from LEAC issues and how to handle capital accounts recovery in a utility that doesn't actually make any investments of its own capital. So we do that by the recovery of or paying for their debt service, which is where all their capital comes from. I want to remind the commission, and it's not even really a reminder for Chairman Nichols-Sams and Commissioner McGrath, that years ago we adopted something called rate flow, which will have a bearing on the base rate discussion. And we have an order which anticipates designing a base rate in such a way that on an annual basis we can check its big drivers. It's the simplest things like debt service and labor expenditures and I don't know, there were 3 or 4 categories, leases, lease obligations, so that we can on an ongoing basis make sure that the rate correctly tracks the actual cost of service of the utility. We do this because otherwise you're making a 5-year guess when you do a base rate case, and there should be no expectation that you're going to get it all right. So I just want to remind everyone that as we complete this exercise, hearing examiner Whitaker will probably also be bringing forward recommendations for the 4 or 5 major categories that the commission reserves the right to each year kind of address in a mini base rate case to make sure that the rate's still appropriate. Otherwise, we run the risk that the rate becomes inappropriate and somehow the utility either under or over recovers. So that's just my plug for rate flow, and just a reminder that it sits there waiting for us to implement it. And I'm looking forward to moving forward and completing this case.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Williams?
No.
Nothing? Okay, Commissioner Grass? No. Okay, I have no comments. Okay. Let's see what's next here. Got that done. Okay, so the next one is docket 672, WAPA customer service. Attorney Spring for.
Yes.
Would you like to speak on that? Thank you.
Good morning to Sean Hendricks, Assistant Executive Director for the Public Services Commission. Good morning, Chair, Commission members, PSC staff, and all members present and our listening audience. A memo was shared addressing ongoing challenges in resolving customer complaints involving the Water and Power Authority and the need for commission action. Over the past 2 years, the commission has seen a significant increase in complaints primarily related to billing inaccuracies and estimated billing, meter failures and delays, account adjustment and credit discrepancies, and untimely responses and poor customer communication. These issues have resulted in a growing backlog and delays beyond regulatory timeframes. As of March, the St. Croix District has 70 outstanding complaints, and the St. Thomas St. John District has 94 outstanding complaints, and that would be as of March. Many cases remain pending due to delayed adjustments, refunds, investigations, and meter-related issues. While PSC staff continues to follow all procedures, timely resolution depends heavily on WAPA's responsiveness, which remains inconsistent. Although WAPA has acknowledged these issues during our February 18, 2026 meeting and committed to improvement, measurable progress has not yet been achieved. As a result, these delays are impacting both operational efficiency and public confidence. Accordingly, staff recommends that the commission require a formal corrective action plan, establish mandatory reporting requirements, enforce clear resolution timeframes, authorize formal action if improvements are not made, and consider penalties for continued non-compliance. WAPA has since responded to the PSC's letter and expresses a willingness to enhance accountability, responsiveness, and service delivery. However, the PSC continues to have reservations. The volume of daily customer complaints suggests persistent gaps in due diligence, timely responses, customer satisfaction, and customer education. WAPA's immediate priority must be to deliver meaningful customer satisfaction through timely, accurate, and accountable service. It is essential that the PSC not serve as a final mechanism for achieving basic resolution for dissatisfied customers. Your attention to this matter and continued oversight will be critical in ensuring WAPA meets its service obligations, improve service delivery, and restore public trust. Thank you for your time. That concludes the report.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, good job. Who at WAPA would like to speak on this matter? Please come forward to be sworn in. Thank you.
Morning, everyone.
Okay. Raise your right hands to be sworn in, right? Okay.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, remember to speak loud.
Yes,
I can
yes,
never
yes,
hear you.
yes, yes.
Thank you.
Good morning. I provided a written response to the staff report dated May 11, 2026. There, Chairman Hughes, Commissioner Sam.
1 second. Try passing.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner McGrath, Commissioner Williams, Executive Director Satori, and the staff of the Virgin Islands Public Service Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to respond to the staff report on customer complaints dated March 27th, 2026. While the report suggests that challenges attributed solely to the authority have impacted the resolution of customer complaints, the data does not fully support that conclusion. In fact, the authority has experienced a reduction in the number of open complaints. During the Commission's fiscal year 2026 budget presentation before the Honorable Senator Nobel E. Francis and members of the 36th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, the Commission reported at a total of 236 pending complaints. Although the information presented did not segregate complaints by utility, information recently provided by the utility staff assistants on May 4th reflects that the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority currently has 177 open complaints. I would also like to note that today we also received information from the staff that other complaints were closed as of today. Assuming for the purposes of analysis, all 236 complaints previously reported were attributable to the authority, this would represent an approximate 25% reduction in complaints within 1 year. While we acknowledge that additional improvements are necessary and we remain committed to further reducing complaints, the current data does not support the need for further Commission action at this time. Additionally, while staff has reported to the Commission that it has consistently adhered to its procedures, the authority has identified several matters that contribute to prolonged complaint resolution. In several cases, the authority has provided its analysis, conducted joint site visits with the PSC, performed meter testing, adjusted accounts, and/or scheduled meetings to address customer concerns. Yet customers cease responding to the Commission. In my opinion, such matters should be administratively closed after reasonable follow-up efforts have been exhausted. In other cases, we are awaiting the PSC schedule of customer meetings and/or decisions. Further,
Can you repeat that? You're waiting what?
in other cases, we are awaiting the PSC scheduling of customer meetings and/or decisions. Further, despite our extensive discussions with the Commission on November the 4th, 2025, regarding the methodology utilized for estimating bill calculations, there continues to be an uncertainty surrounding the mathematical formula used to estimate accounts. Despite these discussions with staff, despite several discussions with staff following the November the 4th meeting, this lack of clarity regarding the methodology for estimated bills and adjustment has contributed to complaints remaining open longer than necessary. While there are additional concerns that could be addressed, I believe it would be more productive to discuss all matters contributing to delays directly with the staff in a collaborative setting. Today, however, I would prefer to focus on initiatives the authority has implemented to improve customer service and reduce complaints. As previously reported to the Public Services Commission in February 2026, the authority completed the onboarding of new managers within customer service, customer accounts, and meter services. Recognizing that leadership changes alone would not improve the customer experience, the authority also restructured its reporting framework so that all 3 divisions now report to a single director. This restructuring was implemented with a specific objective of improving customer satisfaction and strengthening coordination across departments. We anticipate that this cross-functional approach would significantly improve the efficiency and consistency of complaint resolution. In fact, the PSC utility assistants recently noted the improved process.
The authority has also continued its meter replacement initiative. During April 26, approximately 1,000 meters were replaced on St. Croix. Meter replacement efforts are continuing this week within the St. Thomas St. John district, with work currently concentrated on St. John before transitioning to St. Thomas. Additionally, the authority has escalated the processing of customer accounts, with adjustments now being completed within approximately 30 days following review. Further, the authority is actively sourcing systems designed to reduce manual processes and enhance operational efficiency. These systems will improve our ability to, one, manage high volumes of customer complaints in a timely and consistent manner, anticipate customer traffic and service demands, collect and analyze operational data, and identify trends impacting customer service performance. The authority is also actively pursuing a new customer service training program for both management and frontline customer service personnel. These initiatives, together with the implementation of the AMI, will further strengthen the customer experience and continue reducing the number of complaints received. Finally, I'm pleased to report that the number of estimated accounts continues to decline. In April 24, approximately 27.7% of customer accounts were estimated. As of April 26, that percentage has been reduced to 15.1%. Although not perfect, it's reducing. We anticipate that this downward trend will continue as the authority advances its meter replacement initiatives and operational improvements. Thank you again for the opportunity to present this response on behalf of the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority. Although we have made meaningful strides in less than a year in addressing customer concerns, every day we are working towards driving results. As always, we remain committed to working collaboratively with the Commission and staff and our customers to improve service delivery and complaint resolution throughout the territory. Respectfully, Marlene B. Francis. I also want to take note of the efforts made by the PSC utility assistants and the customer service team in resolving complaints. Again, we had 177 cases noted as of yesterday, and today we received word that additional accounts, customer concerns will be resolved and closed by the PSC.
And this is Lorraine Kelly.
One second, Ms. Kelly. Sure. Ms. Hendricks, do you want to comment on that letter? Is this what you're actually seeing, or these improvements that were discussed? Are we feeling that? Are we getting less complaints coming our way for people who aren't getting their bills resolved with WAPA?
We're still receiving complaints on a daily basis, but I want to speak to the numbers that were quoted. Historically, the PSC would record the numbers on a fiscal year basis, which would be from October 1 until September of the following year. This year, we have changed that. We're recording based on a calendar basis. So from January and whatever is outstanding as of 2025, that would be the 170 something complaints that were received, that we're seeing. Okay. So it's technically not a major deduction because we were reporting for a longer period of time that was presented before the legislature in our budget hearing. It's a shorter span of time and the numbers are still fairly high. What we are noticing is a lot of the complaints that come to the PSC should be addressed by the Water and Power Authority, but because 30 days have passed or more, the complaints fall under the PSC's jurisdiction. We're talking about minor issues that can be resolved directly by the Water and Power Authority that we're seeing on a daily basis, that's slowing down the complaint process. Not saying that all complaints are not important, but there's some complaints that may need a little more time, a little more investigation. We have to actually adhere to those complaints that could have been resolved prior to coming to the PSC. And those are the ones that's making the process more overwhelming for our staff.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Lorraine Kelly, Chief Financial Officer.
Speak up a little bit more.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Lorraine Kelly, Chief Financial Officer of Water and Power Authority, who oversees the customer service function. I would like to thank Ms. Francis and her new team. She has 3 new managers reporting to her, all of which have been recruited and hired. Some, 2 of which were transfers from elsewhere within WAPA and bring a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience. They have been working very diligently to ask for and inquire of how we can better our processes. And Ms. Francis has included in the FY27 budget, and we have preliminary approval. Of course, we do not yet have board approval, but we have preliminary approval from our executive director to be able to establish new systems, some new technology that will require some IT assistance to implement. But those changes, we believe, will not only enhance the customer experience, but enhance the team's ability to track and monitor. And I also do want to reference that the team, again, led by Ms. Francis, is looking very greatly to enhance the reporting. I myself have seen some of that reporting, and I'm more than happy for the team to share that with you. We now have weekly updates of the data that we have, and we are able to more quickly move towards an area that might be a problematic issue. And I have noticed certainly in the last 3-4 months that we've done that a little bit more nimbly than we had done before. That enables us to address what might be 1 or 2 customers, or maybe even a few more, and to prevent it from becoming more. I know that certainly one of the things that Ms. Francis is conducting is every week there are meetings now with IT personnel, with legal personnel, operations personnel, might be included as needed, and also communications, so that there is a very broad scope. The focus of that meeting is specifically customer service concerns and how we address them. So we're bringing a very specific team approach. That has been ongoing for many, many months, but I just want to make sure to alert the Commission to that. I do also want to mention that as part of that reporting, we are implementing more what I'd call key performance indicators.
Excuse me, before we go there, can you identify these problematic areas you were talking about? You said it was 3. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, one of the key areas is estimated billing. Another key area is the time that it takes us to do adjustments for a customer account. And then the third aspect is just to make sure that the accuracy and completeness of billing and those billing files when they're going out daily are accurate and reviewed, and that we have reporting processes to ensure that we can prevent a customer's bill going out if there might be errors or mistakes on it.
Thank you.
And that is among many other aspects that the team is identifying. I would also like to point out that we are very open to the more frequent meeting with you, so that we can, I think we now are at bi-weekly meetings. If we need to go back to more frequent, what we were doing is weekly meetings so that we can address these items. We're open to that. If that may not help the problem, then that's fine. But please continue to give us your recommendations. I, for one, see the team bringing in new creative solutions, technology solutions, reporting solutions, monitoring and tracking in a way that perhaps we didn't do, bringing more what I would call controls and methodologies surrounding that, so that we can be better serving our customers more frequently. We aren't perfect. We do have some challenges in terms of being able to address all of customers' needs, But please know that we are open to whatever recommendations that you might like to make, and the team and myself will oversee and make sure that we address those issues very promptly.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's hear from our commissioners. Oh, you have a question? Okay, we're gonna start with Raymond, Commissioner Williams this time. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for the update. I was happy to see we're going in a positive direction. I want to congratulate our staff as well for the work they're doing. My general question is, we took a file and order quite some time ago relative to some refunds, some major refunds. Have those been made to the customers?
Yes, we
Yeah.
refunded those customers,
All of them or just some?
all of them.
Okay, I just want to verify that with our staff.
No.
Okay, do you want to come forward? Thank you. Ms. Davis has a comment to make on that, please. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Afternoon. Okay, afternoon, sorry. Just verify. Afternoon, my name is Sasha Davis, the utility staff assistant for the St. Thomas St. John District. To verify, all the customers except Ms. Felder Webster did get their refunds. Attorney Spreen and I are working on looking over Ms. Webster's case so that we could have a meeting with WAPA.
That was one of the cases that we had outside.
Correct. Everybody else is closed and they got their refunds.
Okay, so we just have one.
If I might say, she did receive a refund, but I think there is a discrepancy as to how much she should have received. She received, I can't remember the amount.
She did receive a credit adjustment, but the customer wanted the remaining in check form, so we just have to clarify the adjustment amount.
So you guys already met with her?
We met with her.
WAPA and us and we agreed on like a final.
Well, we're meeting with Ms. Webster on Friday. We're gonna discuss that also. She has another complaint with us. On
Okay.
Friday, we're gonna discuss all the complaints that she has.
Okay, cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, stay right there just in case. Okay, continue.
So my question to the staff, I heard the report. Can you summarize? So I can see there's like a consistency in the type of complaints. Have the complaints been generally the same that we've been hearing for quite some time, estimating issues?
Major issues, estimated bills, meter issues, ultimately linking to possible estimating bills. Just billing discrepancies, unsure of what the bill amounts should be, those types of complaints. Yeah.
So like Miss, I have to say my name again.
Yeah.
Sasha Davis, utility staff assistant. Like Ms. Hendricks said prior, a lot of the complaints that we see before the PSC, we do not need to see it. If WAPA customer service, and they are working on their customer service, but if they would tackle the customers first, then they wouldn't even need to come here. Like adjustments that are warranted to the accounts from 2017, they don't get it, so they come here. And then when we put the complaint in, the adjustment is given within 2 months. So that makes the community thinks that they could just come here instead of going to WAPA, when WAPA just needs to do the due diligence of doing the investigation, and they wouldn't have to come here and we wouldn't have this influx of complaints.
What's preventing you from doing that?
I think that's a prior challenge we had, but.
How can we fix it though?
Well,
I
we
mean,
fixed
I
it. We
understand it's a
actually-
prior challenge. You all are
Right,
staffed up
right.
now. So what are you doing so that this doesn't happen again? We
So-
need to move past this.
So as I mentioned, we have the escalation process. If a customer comes in with an adjustment, once it's reviewed, it's processed within 30 days. If it's not processed.
That's actually happening now.
Right.
People are being
As a matter of
processed
fact,
within
they're
30
being,
days.
some of them are being processed
Great.
prior to the 30 days. We had a customer, I think, had come to the PSC, and her adjustments actually done before we even notified the customer of the adjustment. So some of them are happening quicker than before. In the past, that was the scenario. That's before we had this unified structure. So now the managers and myself, we meet every morning, 9:30, not this morning, but most mornings, 9:30, so that we can discuss these issues that are escalated and we could disperse them to the appropriate team.
Thank you. Are you seeing that? Are we still seeing people on a regular basis that are past the 30 days? What's going on?
Their process is fairly new, so it has not impacted on our end as yet. We're still seeing similar complaints. Like, for instance, the most recent one, a customer was waiting from 2017, a customer was waiting from 2021. So WAPA was aware of the situation, the account was noted, but there was no
The
process.
2017, what was the issue there? Why did it take so long?
So after the storms, the customer would receive the bill, although there was no electricity. So that she was promised that adjustment would be applied to the account. That's the information that we got from the customer. She's went into WAPA and she said that her account is noted, however, there's no progress. And her fear is who she's been working with, if they decide to retire, move on, there's no way of her being able to get that adjustment if in fact the parties change that's currently assisting her with the process.
So that sounds like a cut and dry type thing. Why did it take so long? We're talking about 2017.
I'm not familiar with the customer intimately, but I know that after the hurricane, right, there was a long period that we didn't bill, right? So from like September, some customers got bills in December. So when customers sees the service period, they're assuming that
I understand your point, but I'm talking about 2017.
Right.
We're in 2026.
So there's some customers, I'm not familiar with that circumstance. So what I'm saying is they would assume that they should get an adjustment because I didn't use the service during this entire
But I'm just
period.
saying it didn't happen. I mean, it did, that's 2017 is 2026.
If I
Do we
may-
have any other, one second, do we have any other issues like that?
Oh, yeah, we have a customer, she's been waiting on adjustment since 2021. The adjustment was processed in 2025. However, she was not satisfied with the amount that was processed.
Okay.
After further investigation, we realized that the late fees were not taken into consideration.
Okay.
So that was the most recent finding, but this is from
How
2021.
many customers do we have like that?
It's hard to say off the top, but there are a few that fall into that category that's
Okay.
been waiting.
Can we
for a
give
while.
them a list of all these customers that, because that makes no sense to me.
Well, the list is present. WAPA is fully aware. They have acknowledged that some adjustments need to be processed, but we're just waiting on the adjustment to take place.
Sasha Davis, utility staff assistant. As of this morning, Mr. Hunt as well as Ms. Francis got an updated list of St. Thomas and St. John, which I actually went home and break it down, letting them know like a lot of the customers are just missing adjustments. And WAPA has told us that the adjustment is pending, so why not process it so we can close the complaint?
Can we get them a list?
They already have the list.
Can we get these taken care of so
I
that we're not
reviewed
looking
that.
at them anymore? It
Right.
doesn't make any sense
with
at all.
Commissioner
I mean,
Sands,
really.
I am not disagreeing with the
Okay, so
commission,
that's
but
all
a
we
lot
need
of
to do.
those adjustments are already on the customer's account. It's just for the public
You just need to
services
show them.
and WAPA to meet regarding those specific. I went through the list the last week when we met with the management team. And I identified at least 15 customers that had already received their adjustments since 2025. I asked that information to be shared with the Public Services Commission so that we could discuss these cases.
Cool.
Right? So those are from the old process.
Okay.
The old process. I am trying to focus on new and the improvements that we're making.
Okay, but I don't want to forget about these.
No, we're not forgetting about them because we have the list and we're working through that list.
Thank you.
You wanna come back to me now?
Did you want to say?
Jumped in on my side.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Sams, if I could just, Commissioner Sams, if I can just add to the comments that Ms. Francis is making.
He can't hear you.
Commissioner Sams, if I could just supplement what Ms. Francis is saying. There have been accounts that have been very delinquently not handled and not handled timely by WAPA. We recognize those. I don't want anyone, including the commission or the PSC staff or the general public to go away with the impression that we're not focused on that. We are. I do want you to know that in the last 6 and 12 months, we have had a very, very specific effort of looking and searching for any old accounts that have not been addressed and making sure that we address them. You have our commitment today that we will address those and we will address them as timely as we possibly can.
Okay, I have one more comment. I'm gonna give it back to Raymond. Can we get a time? Can we get a time for those to be resolved? I know with
We
Mrs.
will
Filter, you're
review them
waiting for a
the next
meeting or
week.
something.
Ms. Francis's team meets daily.
Okay.
And what I would like to say, maybe, we're on Wednesday, what day are we? Tuesday?
Today's Tuesday.
By Monday, we can provide a further response. Some of the items might take a little bit longer to research and some of them might be quick to research. What I would like to suggest, and I know this is the manner in which Ms. Francis works, is that she takes the quicker items so that we can move those customers along, and at the same time work on some of those customers that might require further research. But we'll give you an update no later than by end of Monday.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, so, how's your billing done? Is it still outsourced or are you billing inside?
The billing is done internally, but there's an electronic file sent to our vendor to print the bills.
How to print?
Printing is
print.
done in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
So, can you explain that process a little bit? How does it start?
The revenue starts from the meter reading. So the meter readers go out, they read, that information is transferred to the billing team. The billing team then reviews those readings, may send out a reading recheck if there's a discrepancy with the usage. And then once they're through with that, they run a report and they have an exception listing. They're supposed to review that to see if there's any anomalies in that, in any account. Then they run a clean edit. And then after that, they run the final version of the billing and it's sent to our IT department so that it can be transferred over to the vendor.
And all the vendor does is print the actual bill and mail it out on our behalf.
I think it's important to have that on the record because I think the general thought process is that your billing is done in Puerto Rico.
That is not a correct statement.
I'm saying, I think it was important to have that on the
Yes,
record.
thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Hughes, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just first of all, a comment was made about this process of estimation not being clear. I thought the law was really clear on this. I'm not sure I agree with it. I think I'm closer to WAPA's position than the legislature's position about how long the utility, for whatever reason, can estimate a bill and still collect on it. Why is that not clear, Ms. Kelly?
If I could speak to that, Commissioner Hughes.
Sure.
We've
I mean,
provided
from our perspective, why is that not clear?
I don't understand. The clarity is on the Public Services Commission side. When they're reviewing these customer concerns, they want to verify that the estimate that we provided is accurate, right? So the mathematical formula used, I guess it's not clear to the staff. So those complaints are held. We had a meeting in reference to what the methodology that we use. And I've committed anytime, they're willing, we meet regularly, we could discuss it again. So that also holds up complaints from being resolved.
Okay.
So-
Excuse me.
I had the
Ms.
same
Hendricks
question.
wants to say something concerning her comment. Then we're going to
Okay.
jump back to you, Commissioner
So
Hughes. Thank you.
Commissioner Hughes, regarding the clarity, customers are being estimated outside the 30-day period. We've seen as far back as 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, it varies from account to account. And an adjustment is then warranted because WAPA has estimated the customer outside of the required estimated period. When we do get the adjustment, there's no breakdown as to what the calculation or how the calculation is derived. Or when we do get the calculation, it's hard to understand how the calculation was derived. A customer should not have to pull out their calculus or algebra skills to be able to understand what's being billed to them. And that's the challenge that the PSC is having.
So I think the problem is that the PSC is actually willing to engage in that calculation. The law is very clear about how many months in arrears a customer may be legitimately billed, and anything that occurs prior to that point is simply a write-off by the utility. We should have to do nothing more than first of all clarify how long the estimate has occurred, and the utility is entitled to bill under a certain, I guess, justification using current amounts, how far back they can go. And we seem to be willing to get into this food fight with the utility about how far back they can go, when in fact that period is fixed by law. So many of these estimated discussions should be simply applying the law by the PSC. And these, my comments are actually to staff, not to the utility, because a comment was made, it was the final comment to your report, Ms. Hendricks, that you don't wish the PSC to be the avenue of last resort, when in fact that is exactly by law what we are. We are set up to be the avenue of last resort for customers. I wish we never had a WAPA complaint come in front of us. I wish the utility resolved them all with its own customer base, and that would be like the perfect situation here. When a complaint comes to us, my understanding was the first question you ask is, have you raised this complaint with the utility? And if you haven't, come back to us when you have and a certain period of time has passed. That's a process. It's a process point. We don't even take up a customer's complaint if they haven't first made it to the utility and the utility has had an appropriate amount of time to address it. It is only when the customer has not been adequately addressed by the utility or addressed in a reasonable amount of time that we are willing to take up that complaint. That is the first step in our process. I don't get the impression we're actually utilizing that as a point of process. The next point of process is, are we applying the law? Because you and I both know, going back 10 or 15 years, that we used to have a statutory position as more of a consumer advocate, where we would take the complainant and understand their complaint, and then we would go and try and resolve it by cooperative negotiation with the utility. And that's kind of how it was until about 2 or 3 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, our position changed legally. We were given authority to resolve the complaints, not simply to make the customer's complaint and hope that the utility agreed with us. We are in effect administrative law judges in this matter now, which means the consumer makes a complaint, WAPA answers the complaint, and we make a decision. So many of the comments of the report seem to be asking the commission to clarify the process that an administrative law judge would set for the complainants, for the respondents, which is how long you have to respond to it, how much, when is evidence to be presented to me as the administrative law judge. We delegated all this authority to staff, and staff seems not to be willing to exercise it. Put a process in front of WAPA. Put a process in front of the commission, we'll approve it, and then put the process in front of WAPA, which is you have X number of days to respond, the customer has X number of days to respond, and then we will make a decision and WAPA will implement it. We can get to what happens if WAPA doesn't administer our orders, but I don't get the impression that that's been a big problem. You're asking us for a process that is your job to create. This is no longer a cooperative discussion with the utility. By the time it gets to us, you are the judge and jury, and you're supposed to be making orders to resolve these complaints according to the law. So many of these complaints seem to be dealing with this area of estimation where the law is very clear. I don't even know why we take up a conversation about this. If they've been estimated for more than a certain amount of time, you make a decision. You don't even need to know why. You don't need to know that the meter's broken or that they didn't get a meter reader out. The law says X number of days the utility can back bill. That's it. It doesn't really matter why. And it's backbilled from the present point. So I don't, these are not comments to the utility. They have their own process to resolve their customer complaints. I hope they make the progress that Ms. Francis is suggesting that they're making, and that's great. I hope we never get another customer complaint at the PSC. But when it comes to the PSC, staff needs to have a process and they need to actually execute their authority. I'm not seeing that happen. If they were, then we would be resolving complaints more quickly. Those are my comments to staff. Come to the commission. Instead of asking us what the process would be, you should come to the commission and say, this is the process that we are in effect going to execute as the administrative law judge. And then commissioners, you will issue orders, hopefully, to support that process. You're not doing that. You're telling us that the process doesn't exist. It's your job to create the process. That's my comments to this report by staff. Create a process and make a recommendation to the commissioners.
Ms. Hendricks?
Thank you for your comments. There is a process in place. It's the customer service rules and regulations. The PSC is unable to accept a complaint filed by any ratepayer without them going to the utility first. They first have to give the service provider 30 days before we can engage with the customer. If we take a customer complaint and submit it to WAPA and WAPA has not seen that complaint, they will definitely bring that to our attention and let us know that they have not seen this complaint first. So there is a process in place. We are following the process. Where the challenge is that when an adjustment is supposed to be applied, it's not being applied. What else is the PSC supposed to do at that point? WAPA has acknowledged that they have estimated the customer outside of the scope that they're supposed to. It's acknowledged. The adjustments are pending. The PSC has submitted all of the information. We've conducted the investigation. We're now at that point as to what is next. How do we get WAPA to apply these adjustments to the customer's account within the based on the rules and regulations and the timeframes outlined in the rules and regulations. There is a process that the PSC is following.
Question.
Go ahead.
You're
One
saying
second, Commissioner Hughes. 1 second, Commissioner Hughes.
Other than word of mouth, how do you verify that they actually have filed a complaint with WAPA? Does WAPA give them something in writing that a complaint has been filed?
They just started to give the customers dispute forms. So the customers come to us with the dispute forms. In some cases, the dispute forms are 30 days or 45 days and they haven't heard, they just have this dispute form that they turn in and they haven't heard back from WAPA. But this is just recently that they started, the customer service representatives or cashiers, they started giving the customers print out dispute forms and they don't explain it or not. So the customers come back to the PSC with the empty dispute forms, asking if we could help them fill it out. And we send them back to WAPA to give them the 30
You have
days.
customer complaint officers that takes complaints only.
Every service rep takes a complaint. And I also want to clarify, we have received complaints from the PSC from deceased customers and from people who are not authorized on customer accounts. That also creates a further backlog in terms of investigating. I mean, I really would prefer that we have in February when we first met, I asked that we have additional meetings like the one we had in February so that we could discuss some of these issues and move. In March 26th, we received a letter indicating some challenges the PSC was having with WAPA, right? And then on the 27th.
For a second, I just want Commissioner Hughes to finish.
I'm sorry.
No, we're going in another direction. I just want to stay to what we were discussing. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so what we were drilling down on was that maybe part of the problem is this implementation of adjustments. And I guess the first point I would make is that if the PSC is involved in this conversation and an adjustment is made, it's an order of the PSC at this point. It's an order to the utility to make an adjustment because we've gone through the process. There apparently is a number that has been resolved. And that becomes an order of the Public Services Commission to make the adjustment. Look, I don't know why the utility can't make that adjustment in a matter of days. But if that's a problem, then staff needs to, I guess, publish to the commissioners all of the orders that are not being implemented, because that's an order of the PSC at that point. And if that's a problem, that's a different kind of problem. I was focused on getting to that point, which is that the commission has gone through a quick process of entertaining an argument and making a decision. It sounds like we're doing that, although I'm not familiar with the timeframes that you guys are imposing upon the utility, but presumably you have limits of response as an administrative law judge would, that gets through a process in a reasonable amount of time, causes both respondents to put their case on the table so that you can make a decision at the staff level. If that's not the problem, and this is a problem of just implementation of the order, that's a different problem. Which is it? Are we not getting through the discussion, or are we getting through the discussion and the utility is simply not implementing the order?
Ms. Hendricks, will respond.
In terms of the adjustments, the PSC rarely calculates the adjustments. We rely on the Water and Power Authority to give us the adjustment amounts. Once that adjustment amount is received, then we then continue the investigation to verify if in fact that's within the ballpark, if it's in agreement to what the customer's initial concern was. So what I'm hearing from you, Commissioner Hughes, is that we may need to tweak the process and what we're doing and just be more assertive in demanding specifically what the final outcome should be. And that's the long and short.
I would just like staff to appreciate that they are functioning as a judge here. A claim is being made against the utility, a dollar amount claim, presumably by a customer. The utility is responding with its argument. At that point, unless further discussion is necessary, it is your job as the judge to make a determination, okay? And hopefully as quickly as possible. That is the position of the PSC at this point. We are no longer just facilitating a discussion. We are taking both arguments in hand, and we are making a determination based on the evidence that's been presented before us. Now, we delegated that authority to staff, the commission has. And I think the presumption is that you will come back each month with a list of orders, and we'll approve them almost on a consent agenda basis. I'm not certain that's what you guys are doing at the staff level, that's how you're functioning, but I wish you would, because it would make this so much clearer and easier for customers, and it would frankly give the utility guidance as to what the expectations are for them in order to keep these things out of our court, which would be great. So now, are they implementing your order is the second question. You talk about adjustments that are not being made. That is a violation of our orders, because if that complaint was before us, then the resolution of it was an order. Is the utility not implementing the adjustments?
The ones that have been ordered by the commission, Ms. Davis spoke to those. There's still one that's currently being negotiated, but the others have been applied.
Okay, so it's not like 80 or 90 that they're just
Oh,
delaying payment. Okay, fine. So that wouldn't appear to be a problem where we need to talk about punitive action necessarily on the utility, giving them daily fines or something like that. It doesn't seem like we've gotten to that point where they're ignoring the PSC. I would just encourage staff to come up with firmer rules and guidelines and timetables that everyone in front of your court knows they have to abide by. Because when those arguments are made, if they're not made, then that party loses. I mean, if WAPA doesn't show up to an argument, WAPA loses. It doesn't matter if they would have been right or not. If they don't make their argument in the time frame to answer the claim of the customer, you let the 30 days or whatever it is go by, and at that point, you don't go back to WAPA and ask for more information. You just say you failed to respond, you lose. That's how a court of law would work in its simplest form. Where an administrative law judge just says, okay, I've only got one argument in front of me, and therefore it is by law the correct argument. That would be the customer side. And that's how you get the utility to come to the table and make their own argument so that you can act in your function. I'm not seeing us do that, and I wish we would, because we are in fact the avenue of last resort for people legally. And that is just where we are. I mean, WAPA can appeal these orders to a court, but they're probably not going to do that on every single little order. And then that becomes the court's problems, not the PSC's. I'm just seeing a lack of firm process to guide the utility. And in that sense, I don't know why you're looking to the commission to give you that process. You tell us what the process is. You tell the utility what the process is. We'll probably accept it. I don't know what you're asking the commissioners to do here. You guys are the judges here. We delegated the authority to you. Create a process and run it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. I think, are you clear? Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner McGrath.
You indicated earlier that you had installed over 1,000 new meters. Have you hired new meter readers for these meters?
Yes, on St. Croix, we've hired new meter readers, and on St. Croix and St. Thomas, we've hired new meter readers.
And when you say St.
But
Thomas, you mean
St. Thomas, St. John District, yes.
Don't forget about it.
And to install the meters, it's a different department, meter services. So we have employees there as well.
Are these meters going to be replaced with the new AMI system?
Eventually, yes. Eventually, yes. They will be replaced so that we can have the same efficiency across the territory with our new
Are
AMI.
any of these new meters being estimated?
I would presume, yes, that there would be accounts that are estimated, but not necessarily because we don't want to get to the meter. For instance, if we're reading that area on that day and there's a power out, but it's a dog, not that we're not actively trying to read the meter. There are instances where, things happen, you can't get to the meter.
See, this is my problem with this estimation. This estimation has gone on for years for some customers, and it's uncalled for. I would like to see us take a position that estimation can go on for more than 3 months without a real meter reading taking place. Every 3 months, you cannot go past 3 months without doing a real meter reading.
I understand, Commissioner. I would love that too. I would love that too, because it would avoid some of the complaints we have with the true up. It would give our customers more faith in the readings that we deliver. And I'm sure it's coming with the new AMI that we'll be talking about next.
I think
I find it hard to believe that estimated readings have gone down. You claim that your number of estimated readings have gone down. And yet every complaint that I hear on the street is about estimated readings. It doesn't seem possible.
how many meters are you actually not able to do meter readings?
I don't have that data with me.
Okay.
I don't have that data with me right now.
Because you said you installed.
Let me tell you one of the problems I've experienced with meter reading. There's a lot of people who come here and live here for 3 months, go away, come back, and you continue to estimate while they're gone. And so they're paying a higher rate, and they never do a reading to bring it back to what it should be. So they continue paying this high rate for this long period of time. They're not going to get a refund. You know that.
Right. It hurts us more times than not when we
estimate. It hurts them more than it hurts you.
No, they get the credit. They get the credit, the adjustment.
Who wants a credit? I want my money back.
Lots of people want
if you can't continue to take people's money without them getting a service. If you're estimating and they're not there,
I'd like
you're taking their money and not giving them a service.
I'd like to.
That's illegal.
I'd like to raise 2 points. Kelly, CFO. First and foremost, I know that.
I can't hear you.
I'd like to raise 2 points. Ms. Francis, under the time frame that she has been the new director, has established what I will call a cyclical changing of, if a customer has been estimated last month, to focus efforts to make sure that for those smaller amounts of customers that we do a meter read. We may not get to all of those customers, but that it has been a prioritization for her. I know that because I've been in meetings where she's, required that of her
You know,
team.
somebody is going to sue Wappa for taking their money illegally, because you're taking their money and not providing a service. That is illegal.
The second thing that I do want to say is in instances where we have customer amounts that are being paid for a bill and the payment was made, we do give either a credit, or if there is a significant amount outstanding, if there's a negative on the account, we do give refunds. And one of the things that the refund process does not report through Ms. Francis, it reports through one of my other departments, but Ms. Francis and that other department have been frequently meeting, and we have, in the last year and a half, we've made sure to make payments for refunds each and every week. We
Ms.
normally
Kelly,
do them on
you
a
got
Friday.
to look at all of your customers who have been on this estimated billing for long periods, and somebody has to send a meter reader out there to read them and bring them up to date, at least every 3 months, at least every 3 months.
I agree with you. And that's why we've made the changes that I've just described.
You know, people cannot be paying for a whole year and they're not there.
I agree.
Somewhere in the states getting
Madam
medical
Chair?
attention.
Yes.
Madam Chair, can I be recognized?
Hi, how are
good
you? Can you raise your right hand to be sworn in, please? Thank you.
Certainly.
Janae, can you swear in?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I most certainly do.
Go ahead.
Good
Of course,
afternoon.
it's
Good
recording.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Carl Knight, CEO, Virgin Water and Power Authority. Notwithstanding, I understand the frustration of the commission. I understand both the commissioners and the staff. I just want to provide some context, especially in light of Commissioner McGrath's frustration as well. We are not operating, we are trying our best to manage a less than ideal situation with our metering infrastructure. When I came into the company about a year and 9 months ago now, there were over 10,000 meters that were not functioning. We recognize after Irma Maria that FEMA declared that we should replace our power generation equipment that was damaged during the storm. We recognize that FEMA said we should replace our T&D infrastructure that was damaged after the storms. This commission recognizes that FEMA acknowledged that we should replace our water infrastructure that they deemed to have been impacted by the storms. But it's also important that we recognize that FEMA has also deemed that there was a catastrophic damage done to our meter infrastructure. There were thousands of meters that were failed. There have been at least 2 reports presented on the cause of that failure. Water intrusion, humidity, and whatnot has been pointed as a point of failure. And we have been trying to recover from that. So when we talk about estimated bills, and especially those that have been estimated for quite some time, the real challenge that the authority has encountered is some of these meters have not worked for quite some time. We have done our level best to replace them by the thousands. In that year and 9 months that I've been in charge, I've replaced thousands. I think we're up to over 6,000 meters that we've replaced. We are between, we're in a delicate balancing act now between this AMI project that we're going to discuss shortly, which is going to replace all of those meters with brand new state-of-the-art meters that can be read remotely, don't require access to your home, or you can keep your dog out if you want. We're getting to that point. But at the same time, as we try to get a good bead on when we can really make a dent through the new AMI, how do we deal and make our customers whole in the meantime, right? So there's this gap that we found ourselves in where how much investment does the authority make from its operating budget to purchase new meters, to install, so I have something readable, I don't have to estimate, versus when can I actually get this FEMA funded project going to replace everything wholesale and get us away from that. I just wanted to punctuate and say, we'll continue to be overwhelmed, your staff, my staff, We'll continue to be overwhelmed by the complaints, and we'll do our best to process through them as quickly as we can and do right by our customers until we really get this AMI solution in place. And then a lot of this conversation goes away proactively once we get that in place. But retroactively now, we do have this issue that we're trying our best to clean up within our limited resources. And it's not a function of WAPA's reluctance or hesitancy to do right by our customers. We are overwhelmed by a catastrophic failure of our meter infrastructure that we're trying to remedy. And I just want to throw that context in there. This is not normal operating conditions where we're just being blatantly ignoring our customer complaints or having a callous regard for these issues. This is not normal operating conditions we're operating under. This is a recovery from a catastrophic failure of a metering infrastructure. And I just want to put that perspective in the conversation. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Director. Thank you, Director Knight. McGrath, you have no comments? Okay, so that brings it to me. I just have a couple of things. I think we're pretty much on the same page with other items discussed. There was something that I haven't seen at the regular meeting, the Public Service Commission regular meeting on November 4th, 2025. Just for now, it wasn't that one. I don't know if it was that one, but it was a couple of meetings back. We had talked about the customer bill of rights being put on your website. Has that been done? Because I haven't seen it. Okay, and we're talking like, and we were told that you were getting updates on your website that month so that it would be on there. It's not on there. And then you also talked about including that in the customer's bills. And I looked at my recent bill and I didn't see anything like that. I need to know what's going to be done with that. And we need to definitely get a time when it's actually going to be done. Is that something that you all said was supposed to be done?
Right.
I'm trying to find the date of that meeting.
I think it was the same day we talked about the estimated bills. We have had internal discussions about all of those issues. I have to rely on the supporting department.
It was November 4th.
4th, right.
Right,
From the
okay.
same day
You're
we
right.
talked about the estimated billings. It's not on the website. We did put language on the dispute form and that was added to the website. And
It's not the Bill of Rights, though. It's not the customer Bill of Rights.
Right, the whole
And that's what we-
ratepayers
that's
bill of
specifically
rights.
what we discussed.
Right, and that's not on the website. And I do realize that you said that, but it's not on the website. We'll circle back with that, dealing with our communications team.
Give us a timeline when you expect that to appear on the website.
Can I get back to you like next week? Because I have to.
Give us a date next week that you're gonna get back to our staff to let them know
We meet
when
on
that's gonna.
Thursdays, so I'll get back on Friday.
Give me a date. What date is Friday? Anybody tell me? 15th, Friday, the 15th of May. We're still in May, okay. 15th of May, you're gonna send a correspondence to our staff to let us know about when you're gonna get the customer bill of rights listed on the website. And also you're gonna provide information as to when you're gonna be including it in billing. Because we discussed that with the billing, you had to go through your contractor you use to do the bills that go out and add that. Or it can even be just a link or a website or a link to that part on the website on the bill. Just something that has like the customer bill of rights can be read at this, or however you say it. You get the point. I'm saying.
Right, we have discussed it several times. I just have to.
And I think in English and Spanish too. Was that what we talked? I can't remember, but I don't know. Is your bill in English and do you have, no, it's just English. Okay, then don't listen to what I just said. Okay, but listen to most of what I just said. Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else have any other comments concerning this matter? We're done with that. Okay, thank you. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Let's see, where are we next? We have the report from WAPA on AMI contract and implementation. Commission questions. Okay, so this is exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. And can you state your name and please raise your right hand to be sworn in?
Good afternoon, Julius Obey, Chief Information Officer. Speak up.
And please speak up because we can't hear you.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. All right, good morning, no, sorry, good afternoon. Julius Obey, Chief Information Officer for the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority. I'm here to give an update on the implementation of the AMI, the new AMI system. Last time I was here, I had a meter and I was asked if that was a new meter. It was not, but I do have a new meter for us today. This is actually one of the production meters that that is from Itron that we have been using for testing. So I'll go through a quick rundown of where we are currently with the project. Okay, so the project is broken down into 3 separate work streams. You have our system integration and testing, which is basically getting all the systems that we are putting in talking to each other. So we have our customer information system that has to talk to the new metering system, to the installation for the work orders, changing meters and those things. So in that work stream, we have unit testing, which is testing each individual component. Then we have the system integration testing, which is now getting the systems talking to each other. So the Itron system is called UIQ, talking to RCIS, talking to.
Okay, you need to tell us what that means because you're not just talking to us, you're talking to the general public.
Okay.
And yeah,
Apologies.
we don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so Itron's head-end system where all the network communication and all the meter readers, the meter readings are aggregated. It's called Utility IQ, so UIQ. That's their system. That will talk to one of our systems, which is our meter database, our meter data management system, which also then talks to our customer information system. So it's basically, we're gonna get the meter reads from the field through the Itron system, which will then talk to our database and then talk to our billing. There's also a component for the installations to manage work orders. For every meter that is replaced, there will be pictures, there will be voltage taken, a lot of data, you know, as met, as left, those things. So this is, you know, one of the critical, as I said, the integration is right now we're about at 53% of the project on the integration work stream. We are actually testing right now the billing process, which is module 9 out of 14 in the billing. This is actually the most complicated process for that. And we, as I said, we're about 57% done the entire testing of the integration. So after we're finished with the testing portion, we will go into user acceptance tests where we will basically run the system in test as a full function. So our end users, from everyone from the meter reading to billing to IT, will go and do a full start all the way, install a meter in the field, make sure it gets correctly applied, go through, get reads, create a bill from start to finish for a couple billing cycles in the test environment. Once that's done, then we'll decide, okay, are we ready to go live? Great.
Okay, so this is just, it's not like you aren't using any real meters for any real customers for this testing. No. It's just all, okay.
No, right. We have real meters that are sitting in a test farm where we use to get the data in. We also have simulated data that's used, they call it node-sim data, that's used for testing you know, months of data. It creates months of data to so that we can use for the testing process. So once that's done and we go live, we go through the entire process of user acceptance testing, make sure it's functioning how we expect it to function, make sure the billing is functioning how it's supposed to function. We're gonna double check, triple check, quadruple check everything. Then we will go live. The go live right now is scheduled for August 31st. Okay. That will be where we take the system from the test environment and move it to the production environment. Once the production environment is up and running, we will then start to deploy the meters. Before we deploy the meters, though, we have to go through the network deployment of the process of the project. The network itself will be built out before we start installing meters. So as we install the meters, they come online, they go through their commissioning and get straight to into the billing system, so we can use them, within a matter of a couple of days once it's installed. On the network side, we're putting about 150 devices across the territory to help to collect the reads. They are going on composite poles in most areas. There are a few in St. John that has national park that we can't put composite poles, so those would go on existing poles. Yeah, so we can't put the poles at this point. So to not delay the project, we decided to go on the existing pole to continue the project. So we have visited every single site. We have done surveys on every single one of the sites. We've done RF signals, we've done the propagation studies, and the enhanced field network design has been completed. And that's what was used to do the final design, or the composite poles and materials that have been needed. The composite poles are on island, sitting, waiting to be installed. Hardware for them are on island as well. The network equipment itself, the actual collectors, are shipping on the 22nd of this month. So hopefully by next month sometime, we should actually have them on island. As you know, the shipping has been a little issue for us for a few things lately. The one thing that I will put the linchpin for this, we do need FEMA EHP before we can start installing the poles.
You need FEMA
EHP, the Environmental Historic Preservation approval, that we do not have yet. It is under review with them, but that is a very critical point. We cannot, as I said, start installing the poles until we get that. The issue with that is if we don't get that very shortly, it's going to start to push back the meter install, because the poles have to be up, collectors have to be up before we can install the meters. So that is completely out of our control, but that is a flag on the project that we're monitoring, and we're trying to push through to get the EHP so we can install the network. Once the network is done, and we are starting in St. John, we will, so before, let's go back a little bit. All the meters for St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix are on island. They are in warehouses sitting on St. Thomas and St. Croix. Every meter for the project is here. We have also done a change order to the project to do a concurrent install in St. Croix and St. Thomas. If you remember last time we had met, it was going to be St. John, then St. Thomas, then St. Croix. We will still do St. John first, do our testing. After the testing, we've validated everything is working, we've done the performance testing. We will actually then do 2 crews doing St. Thomas and St. Croix at the same time, which cuts about 6 months off the install time. Yeah. Okay, so back to the deploy. So St. John right now, it's still scheduled for September 2026. We'll do that's going to take about a month. After that month, we'll stop for a month with the installs. The network install will continue, but the meters will stop while we do performance testing, validate everything is working as it should, go through an entire billing cycle on the live system, the new data, make sure everything is working. Once that's verified and completed, we will then start St. Thomas and St. Croix and do both at the same time.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right.
I'd like to hear comments from our commissioners. Commissioner McGrath, would you like to start?
Yeah, my only question is everything going to go live at one time, or are they going to be implemented?
No, it's going to, so the system itself, all the 4 systems that we're integrating together, when we go live, that's 100%. All one time, because that's what we're testing, that's what we're integrating.
Okay.
What that's done when we go live, that's functioning, that's been tested, that's done. As the meters go online, it's going to be as hypothetical. So as you deploy them, they go through their commissioning process. They have to connect to the network. They have to go through the security authentication, make sure that they're communicating properly, and then they'll go into an active status. Yeah.
Good. Commissioner Williams?
I'm just happy to hear that progress is being made.
Thanks, Commissioner Hughes.
No
Do you have any
comments.
comments?
No, yeah, thank you, Mr. Albane. I always appreciate your very detailed presentations to us.
Okay, I do have a few questions. There's just some, okay, so when you all install the meters on St. John, once you get them installed, how long does that take? Just to get in St. John? Huh?
They're estimating a month.
A month?
A month.
Okay, so you install them, but as you install them, the systems are gonna be operating,
Yeah,
right?
they're gonna be coming,
As
so
they're
as
being
they install, as they're being installed, they start day one, it's gonna take, some will come online within a couple hours, some will take 2 days. But, you know, there may be some troubleshooting has to be happening, but within I would say a couple days, they'll be online and be.
So you said that after they're installed, like after all of them installed, 30 days, you're gonna wait for 30 days to run through a whole cycle?
A whole cycle, yeah.
So it's like 60 days actually before you move on to St.
St.
Thomas and St. Croix concurrently, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah, we thought it was prudent to make sure
It
we
makes
do
sense.
some really real, not only testing of the building, but also performance testing on the system, make sure that the system is functioning as we expect it to. So the one thing that the amount of data that's coming in from the meters is quite a bit. So we want to make sure that it is actually functioning, the systems are performing as they should. You know, we are doing 15-minute reads, interval reads on every residential. We're doing 5-minute on commercial. So yes, it's a lot.
Okay.
So
No, that is a lot.
yeah, so we just want to make sure that, you know, the systems are working, the network is working, everything is balanced, everything is performing as it should.
So second question, composite poles, don't they already have them pretty much in St. John?
Not in all the areas, some of the areas. And
So like the national park, no?
No.
But outside that?
Outside, yes. So those where we can install, we will be installing them in St. John. One thing we are doing, we're not, unless it was not possible to, we're actually installing the collectors on a separate pole. That way it's hardened. That's going to be the only thing on that pole other than the power connection. That way, you know, it's less likely for something to happen to it. There are some instances where we have to go on existing ones just because you would have 2 poles right next to each other or the fall distance and stuff like that. But where we can, we are putting a separate pole to harden the system as much as we could.
Cool. Another question, with the FEMA EPH, that will, EHP, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I got twisted on that one, that you're waiting for, it sounds to me like you're a bit delayed in that process.
The shutdown.
How much delayed are you all in that process?
Honestly, I would have hoped to have it already.
When were you expecting it, I should say?
Before the shutdown.
Oh.
Yes. It has not delayed us yet. If we can get it within the next 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, we'll be okay.
What's the likelihood of that?
They are actively reviewing it.
Okay, so that could delay the whole process.
Yes, that would be the big issue if we don't.
Okay, and I think that's all I have. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm asking you to excuse.
You can be excused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next thing that we have on the agenda is docket. Docket 702, WAPA levelized energy adjustment clause. Who speaks on that? Attorney Spring, do you have any comments about that?
Excuse me, let me take a look at my agenda. I closed it because I had to reboot my Adobe.
Oh, okay, we're good.
Get the agenda in front of me again. And the 2 items there, no, those are actually both items that are to WAPA for our staff report on the process.
So WAPA would like to speak on this topic. Anybody? Thank you.
Excuse me, good
Or is this a
afternoon.
fuel
This is
contract?
Lorraine Kelly, Chief Financial Officer. The Advanced Energy Adjustment Clause, item 1, fuel contracts. What kind of an update are you looking for on fuel contracts? Can you please help us
A
understand?
WAPA status report?
On fuel contracts.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
I
apologize. I thought you said the LEAC, so I am sorry.
Okay, raise your right hand and be sworn in, please. Thank you.
Do you swear to tell, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, we're ready. Thank you.
I apologize. Dion Sinclair, General Counsel at the Water and Power Authority. Yesterday, I believe, or maybe the day before, I provided a copy of the completed contract with Carib LPG LLC, so that should be before the commissioners currently. That is the finalized agreement that went into effect at the close of March. So since that time, the LPG has been supplied through Carib and will continue for approximately a 2-year period. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to review the document, if there are any questions.
Yesterday, I
Okay.
think.
Okay, sorry.
So everything's signed.
Yes.
Okay.
The document was complete. I think the last signature was executed on the 30th.
Awesome. Okay, so Commissioner McGrath, do you have any comments?
No.
Questions? Commissioner Hughes, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just my congratulations to the utility
Yeah.
for completing this process with a solid vendor.
Great, that's it. I don't have any questions or comments. So with that being said, we are adjourning this meeting. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We're not adjourning the meeting.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll ask my question off the floor.
Okay, we're adjourning this meeting. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have some things like
So
I did want to talk to you about something. Go ahead.
when we talked last week with